I'm in search of conversation guests. If you are interested or know someone that might be interested, please contact me directly. Thank you.
Las Vegas. I'm Emmett Morgan, Las Vegas Realtor, here to talk to you in 4K. In your face. So what has happened?
Any interesting stories in the last 2-3 months?
One interesting thing is that I think you heard me say a lot that it's not about the market, it's about your life when you're choosing to buy or sell, that you don't want to time the market. And that's very much one of my core themes, one of the things that I think is true and important. But strangely, we're in a very odd time where the market has become so skewed that you can't ignore it. So normally the advice I would give is buying or selling real estate, buying or selling your home is about your life. But now the market has gone so crazy that it is affecting your life. So since December here in Las Vegas, I think it's similar nationwide, but there's a massive disparity between buyers and sellers. There are so many people that want to buy and so few people selling that we have a lot more demand than supply. So real basic, if a lot of people want it and very few people have it, then the people that have it becomes valuable. The home prices go up. So whatever reasons you can dig into, does it have something to do with eviction moratoriums? Does it have something to do with unemployment? Like if your job is not on solid footing, then does it stop you from moving elsewhere? I know refinancing, if you can refinance down to a great rate, that might make you say, you know what, why would I leave? This is awesome. I hope that's what's happening. That's what I did, is refinanced into such a cushy, great situation. Like, I love this home. Why would I go somewhere else? But prior to coronavirus, prior to these strange times, people seem to move every 5 or 7 years. And so I don't know if these events are changing the way people behave or what the underlying cause is. I can only say definitely, especially in Las Vegas, there's a huge differential between supply and demand. So they call it inventory here in the business. They call it inventory. The number of homes for sale at any given time, if people are buying them at this rate, if we stopped listing new homes right now, the rate of buy would expire that inventory in this amount of time. So normally they say a balanced market is about 6 months of inventory. Prior to coronavirus, we were used to about 4 months of inventory, which was good. I mean, if you took somebody out to buy a house, is reasonable. You could you say, hey, what are you doing Saturday? Let's go look at some houses on Saturday. You show them 6 or 8 houses and they have some options. If they don't like any of those, you can go next weekend and go look at 5 more. If they didn't like any of those, you could wait a week or two and maybe something new would pop up. But now that 4-month inventory, we're looking at less than 2 weeks. It was acute when we were at a month of inventory. We're down below 2 weeks of inventory. And it's just impossible, not impossible, it is super difficult for a regular buyer who's just a regular working person or couple, right? 2 incomes to get a loan. Regular people with a loan are having a hard time buying a home because there's so much demand that cash buyers are buying homes. A home will get listed and within a day it'll have 20 offers and it'll get sold over that list price. And you're kind of like, hey, whatever it sells for, that's the market value of it, right? But there's also a thing where if you're using a loan, you need that home to appraise at enough value to get the loan on it, right? So the lender is loaning you a bunch of money to buy this house. They're going to get an appraiser there to tell you a value, because what they don't want to do is loan you $500,000 and you buy a house for $300,000. Now they're in a risky position because they've loaned more than the house is worth. So what's happening is the market is appreciating so fast, it's hard for appraisals to keep up. If somebody buys a home cash, you can literally buy it for as expensive as you want, and that will set the new comp, the new comparable sale, very high. But if the previous purchases were loans, there's some regular, or if the nearest comps, sold in October, which is not that long ago, but before this fast ramp up in prices, the appraisals can't keep up with the market appreciation. So you're going to list it. You can list high, but you can't list crazy high, because then a person with a loan can't ever get a loan to match that price. So then you're limiting yourself to only cash buyers, which is a generally poor selling strategy. Except now we have so many cash buyers for the little inventory that there is, that the cash buyers are almost always winning. Like, if you got a loan, you almost got no chance against cash buyers to get a house that's in competition.
So it's a seller's market, and then
It's an extreme not vicious. It's an extreme hardcore seller's market.
So some of the buyers are coming to you pretty frustrated, or what's the common?
I have some buyers that we've really had struggles getting them homes. I've had, over the last couple months, there's 2 that we've just not been able to get them a decent home. And they're professional people with a regular income, and they've got a good loan. And just one person we've done, I think, 7 offers on 7 different offers on different homes, and we've gotten smoked every time by better, more competitive offers. So a lot of that is out-of-state money. You'll hear in Vegas a lot that Californians are selling their $1 million houses in California and then taking whatever equity they've got and buying cash here. So I kind of want to be mad at them, but I originally came from San Diego, so I can't be too mad, because they're just realizing the same thing I realized 10 years ago. Like, I'd rather live in Vegas for a lot of reasons, right? Cost of living, traffic. I love it here. Beautiful city. It's got everything I want, everything I need. So I can't blame people for thinking the same thing I think, or loving the city as much as I want to love the city. I'm not saying that right. For wanting to move here as much as I love living here. So I think what is tough for me to see is a regular couple with 2 incomes gets a regular loan. It's hard for them to afford an average house in Vegas now. So it's getting to where a dual income, even good salaries are struggling. So I think it's terrible that there's no preference for the working people to get an average house. So what you're having instead is, a lot of out-of-state people coming in and swooping and grabbing houses, right? So does that help us as a city to have people from elsewhere buying up property, bringing up those property values? We love property values increasing, but not to the point where people can't afford. Especially if they're just working regular people. I want them to get their home here and enjoy the rewards of the city to the fullest. So does it help to have, I don't want to say foreigners, right? Because Californians are not foreigners. I'm from California. It's next door, right? But does it help us to have neighbors buying up our homes and driving up prices? So then locals here can only afford to rent because they can't get a house. But then there are people that buy second and third homes, and then they rent them out. So now this person has to rent a home at a high price and then never get in to buy. So it becomes this trap. Especially when I see foreign money, I don't want to say China, but there's a lot of Chinese agents out there. And there's a lot of Chinese money in Vegas buying homes and renting them out, right? So for them, that's a good investment strategy to buy some property in the US, rent it out, collect the money, right? Whatever they're thinking. But for us in Vegas, regular working people, now we're renting and that money's going to China somehow, right? I'm not against China in this fashion per se, but it seems to me a stupid strategy as a city. What good does it do us to stick our workers with having to rent and ship that money overseas? So I think there needs to be some protection. If you put me in charge, but make me mayor. I'll fix that. I mean, because you got to have some preference for the people that are here, that are, make a residency requirement, right? Like if you are a resident here for a year or two, shouldn't you get some first in line somehow?
With the given pandemic situation and the house prices going up, what would you suggest for someone that's interested in buying right now? Should they wait it out?
If you want to buy right now, you should still try. If you don't have a giant pile of cash, it is hard to win against a giant pile of cash. Doesn't mean you can't do it. What's happening is the beautiful move-in ready homes that look great, they're vacant, and they're updated and modernized, remodeled. Any nice home that anybody can look at the pictures and go, hey, that's a nice place, I would love to move in there. Yeah, 1,000 other people also looked at that, and the 4 people that have $600,000 cash are going to get it before you, right? So maybe you have to change your strategy to, I'm going to get a fixer-upper, right? It's going to be overpriced compared to what we think, because the prices have gone up very quickly. It sucks because the price is what somebody will buy it for. Because so I have some clients that try to tell the market what a home is worth. Oh yeah, I like that house, but it's only worth $270,000. I'm like, well, it's you can say that, but I know tomorrow some dude's going to buy it at $290,000. So that tells me it's worth $290,000. And it's not worth $290,000 to you, obviously. So, but you're not keeping up. Just like the appraisal's not keeping up with the market, we can get rooted in old prices, right? Kind of like even the price of a cheeseburger, right? If you're going to go buy a $6 cheeseburger, you might think, oh, hey, I remember when cheeseburgers used to be $2-3, right? So same thing with houses. You can be rooted in your old values, and it's real hard. I mean,
that's like my $1 for a candy bar.
Yes.
Statement.
Has that been on the show?
I don't think I said it yet.
Liem doesn't want to pay more than $1 for a candy bar. The regular size.
That's my old man statement currently.
Yeah. So if Snickers bars cost $1.40 now or whatever, then you can't tell the store, hey, that's $1 candy bar. Because if you leave it there, somebody's going to come in 20 minutes later and buy that Snickers bar for $1.40, right? So
times are changing. I look at the candy bar and I see $1, but as inflation happens, that's going to be $1.40, $1.50, eventually maybe $2, eventually $3. That's just the nature of us American printing money.
I'm glad you said inflation, because that's a little bit different with the candy bar versus the housing. The housing really is, there really is a market value that responds to supply and demand. There's an appreciation of an asset where I don't think a Snickers bar can be an appreciating asset.
Yeah. Unless an apocalypse, but yeah.
Yeah. So a home can be worth more in the future for a host of reasons. A lot of times an old home is in a great location, and as a city grows, like Vegas is one of the fastest growing cities. So as the city grows, the city around it, that location, you can't buy a new house there anymore. So that location becomes a prize, and the value goes up as the city grows up around it. For example, downtown Summerlin is a pretty new development, but I think that brought up the attractiveness of that area, right? So if you had a house there 20 years ago and it was just dirt lot, and then for a long time it was a half completed construction project, but I think the moment it turned into a fun, attractive shopping center with restaurants and entertainment, and just like they do an ice skating rink in the wintertime and a giant tree and just a fun place, I think that brings up the attractiveness of that location, which is weird because even if you don't go there every day or you go there once a month or something, doesn't matter if I had to drive 10 minutes to get there, but it's funny that it brings up that attractiveness value. The other thing that's kind of similar to Snickers bars is cost of materials. So I've got, I think, 4 new constructions in escrow right now. People are buying a new build home. So let's take a little longer to wait for the home to build out. But I get to talk to the builder companies and the construction managers and stuff. And the cost of materials is really going up. I think partially because of coronavirus supply chain issues. So apparently a lot of our lumber comes from Canada somehow. And there's some, anytime you lock down or you're missing some piece of the supply chain, even I think overseas, like say other countries that lock down harder, right? Some countries in Europe could have a hard lockdown where you just literally stuck in your house, right? So if there's some product like a resin or a nail or something that goes into the final product here, that product's not happening in this supply chain fashion. But the reason I mentioned Canada is because a lot of our lumber comes from there, and then lumber itself, a regular 8-foot long 2x4 was $1.97 a year ago, and now it's up over $8 as of the last I heard. So the lumber in a house, that's a big. If you go watch a house being built, the sticks in the drywall, that's a big part of it, and so that the lumber itself is 4 times more expensive to get. I was talking to one. It was interesting. One construction supervisor, they use plywood on the roofs to make the roof part. Their delivery of plywood wasn't coming in. She sent all of her worker guys around town to buy up plywood at all the local construction lumber yards to keep her project on track, right? So it was interesting to see those things happening. So on the new build, the new construction homes, the prices are appreciating very quickly also. So in the old days, way a couple months ago, you'd have the phase 1 homes and they'd be at this price. And you go, you got to buy this before we complete the, we've got 3 left in phase 1. Once we sell those, we go to phase 2. And phase 2, we're gonna increase the price, $5,000 or something, because now you got more of a neighborhood around you. The phase 1 ones are cheaper, and by the time you get to phase 6 or 7, you could talk a pretty substantial difference in price from that home that was built just a year ago, because that value's gone up. Now they're also increasing price because they go, shoot, our cost of materials going into homes is going up significantly. So we got to build that into, we got to charge you for the more expensive lumber. We got to charge you for the more expensive pieces that went into the house. There's a new couple I was helping with yesterday. We're checking out their home. We're going to close escrow in a couple weeks. And she says, hey, this in my culture, this is a big thing to buy your home. Like, it's a huge accomplishment. And I'm like, yeah, it's a big deal in any culture in America. So congrats. And I actually have to remember and remind myself to kind of realize that more about, that's such a big thing to her, where for me, I'm doing this all the time. So maybe it loses its specialness. So I got to remember to celebrate with them appropriately, because anything you do over and over again can't be exciting. The 30th time isn't as exciting as the third time, right?
What would you suggest for buyers right now? Like, say,
oh yeah, I think I derailed on that. Yeah.
So what would you suggest for them to do?
Yeah, so if you're gonna buy right now, those move-in ready, beautiful, awesome homes are gonna fly to the cash buyers. So pick a ugly house that's kind of crappy inside, and you'll end up overpaying a little bit for it. But if it's something where you just got to paint the walls and redo the floors, those are kind of the big major, that and remodeling your kitchen. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of other things. You can do landscaping, but those are the major: kitchen, walls, and floors. So if you can find a home that is almost there, and you say, hey, I just got to replace that nasty carpet and paint to a nicer color, a home could be totally unattractive prior to that change. You could look at the kitchen and go, you know what, it's got those white square tiles that were popular in the 90s and nobody likes that. But I wouldn't let it stop you from buying the home, because you could buy the home, and at my place, we had the countertops redone for just under $3,000. So if it's the difference on a house, that's maybe 1% of the whole house cost. So if you can get a home that other people aren't attracted to, and pick your own countertop, right? Pick the exact color you want. Instead of saying this is a nice kitchen, pick the exact kitchen you want. So the place that I bought, I'm very lucky that Mariella's handy. Like, she repainted the cabinets. They were like a light oak. So we repainted them like a dark, almost like an espresso brown, and redid the countertops. So now it's totally transformed the kitchen by doing those two simple things: the painting the cabinets, redoing the countertops to quartz. We did a dark gray quartz, and then we they call it the hardware. We screwed handles on. Go to Home Depot and buy a bunch of handles and try to line up the holes as evenly as you can. And it's funny because since I drilled the holes, all I can see is how off they are. But I think I hope other people don't notice it and they're seeing how nice it looks.
I haven't noticed it.
Okay, good. So, but since I did it, like all I can see is, that one's so close. So sorry, way off again. So to a buyer, go for the house that needs renovation, because that's where the cash buyers are not paying attention.
And I'm imagining a lot of people, I'm just guessing, a lot of people probably want to buy a new home, or are they more okay with an older...
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Most transactions are not brand new homes. So brand new homes are a very small percentage of the market. Part of that's because they can only build so many, right? So all the homes that ever existed, so homes have been being built in Vegas. You could probably find a home back to maybe the 50s, but 60s. It's real hard to find a home before the 80s. So 60s and 70s, you can find some homes. So all these decades of home building, our city keeps growing, right? But the homes they built this year can't compete with the million homes that have been built, right? No matter how many homes you build. So proportion-wise, the new homes are a much smaller proportion, but they are new and awesome and have higher cost materials. So they're going to be high-priced compared to an older home.
Let me rephrase my question with or kind of cut in.
Yeah.
So if they have their mindset on a more expensive home, but because it's a seller's market and they're going to have to pay a premium for a decent house. So you're saying go for the fixer-upper. Are people less happy going for a fixer-upper in their mind mentally, or is there a...
Yeah, totally. I mean, so it's like buying a car, right? Do you want the one that's got the dented bumper and the torn seat, right? So no, that's not the car you're going to pick. You want the nice, shiny, good-looking car with the low mileage, right? But if you can't afford the Cadillac, then maybe the Honda you get, and then once you get it, drop the money on a new bumper, you can buy a whole new seat.
In your experience with that, what's the difference? What do you see difference between a newer home in that, like amenities, things that house may have, and then an older fixer-upper? What's missing? What's the big differences? Because you could upgrade the kitchen, like you said, paint the walls. What are the missing?
That's a great question, because designs and styles have changed over time, right? Granted, new homes are a lot more expensive, but a lot of times you're getting a lot more home too. They're very different. Okay, so say you bought a home from 1967. So over by Stratosphere, you can find some older homes. They tend to be bigger lots, but smaller homes, and oftentimes cinder block construction. Very simple homes. Some of them, without extensive modification, originally had washer dryer in the backyard. Or they might not have a garage and they have just a carport. So if those things aren't important to you, then you can get a great deal on that style of home that in the 60s, that was a great home. So homes started off smaller with bigger yards. And there are things that we kind of envision a home to be now that I think are much more rooted in the 80s and 90s, the homes that we're used to and the homes that we typically see. And so this is Vegas and a little bit California, but I'm sure East Coast is a whole different story because you have homes that are from 1800s, right? So you have, a Revolutionary General lived in this house. So some of the things I see now that are great about new homes are, it's funny, insulation. Like nobody cares about insulation, but in Las Vegas, it's actually really important. So most modern homes have good insulation. The homes that are building new now have incredible insulation. They are really stepping up they have ways to rate it. I forget, like they have an R rating. So like R16 or R22 or R30 or, however well it insulates heat. So they're using more modern materials. They're packing insulation into places where you wouldn't necessarily, you want to get every nook and cranny, you get better windows. So they're insulating these homes really well, which is great in this Vegas heat to be able to cool your house less. So one of the new constructions that I'm working on right now, huge home. I think it's like 2,300 square feet, but it only has one air conditioner, and it's able to use that one. So the house I have is a 2,000 square foot, 2,050 square feet, and it takes 2 air conditioners to cool the whole place. But this newer home that's even bigger can do it on one air conditioner because it's not losing.
Yeah, insulation's keeping it in.
Yeah, so I mean, do most people care about that? This is probably not in their top 10 things, but I think it's awesome.
I wonder what type of monthly cost difference that there is. I mean, I hear some friends in Vegas where they're talking about $600 monthly electricity bill when they're running their AC, and they're complaining about it. I'm like, screw you! You have a 2,400 square foot house or a 3,000 square foot house. I'd have no sympathy for you. I know that's a jerk thing to say, but
cry me your mansion tears.
Yeah. How much do you think insulation would affect? That's probably not in your wheelhouse to know.
Yeah, I don't have the data, but yeah, it can be a big deal, like you're saying. I mean, the bigger the house is, the harder it is to keep it cool. So the places where they can really affect that are sometimes they'll insulate the garage, because the garage is typically considered an outdoor thing. But if you insulate that garage a little bit, you'll see people put paneling in their garage doors. So that's a place where it can help. And then the attic is another place where you can really change the game. Because part of our air conditioning units are in the attic. Part of the air conditioning unit is in the attic, and the vents and the ducts go up there. There's a big pump that moves the air around. But if the attic is hot, if it's hotter than the rest of the house, the air gets sucked up into the attic and it goes into a hot place and picks up some of that heat. So if you can keep your attic cool, then that keeps your air cooler as it's circulating, and then you're not wasting and losing heat or losing cool. If you're buying a brand new home or a newer home, the insulation can be awesomer. And I like that a lot.
Have you seen a decent, it's probably hard to upgrade a fixer-upper insulation because that cinder blocks, if that's the foundation.
Yeah, the attic is a great place where you can easily, if you can get up in the attic, they can do spray foam, and you can pack fiberglass and insulation into spots where it didn't. I think what is harder on an old home is little nooks and crannies and spots where you can't get to, that if you design from the beginning as a whole mindset of insulation is my mission in life.
Yeah, even on the frame walk that I went with you, it looked like, I'm not sure if I understood it correctly, that one of the things that they're lining, they had the frame, and then they're lining it some sort of insulation. It was almost like it felt like a plastic liner, but I think that was like probably phase 1 of their insulation. They probably have packing stuff, but even just having that one extra plastic lining, that's something you got to do when the frame is up. I mean, if you wanted, if this wall didn't have that and you want to do that, you'd have to knock down this wall, get that liner up, add the insulation, and then redo the drywall. That would just
you don't want to tear down the drywall.
Massive undertaking.
Much easier to do from the get-go.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of surprised that the new builders are putting so much time and effort into insulation, because I don't think it's a huge buyer. People fall in love with the home and like, oh my God, it's a beautiful model. I love the shape of this. It's got a loft. And look at this amazing kitchen. You go to the option center, you can get the gold handles on everything. And I don't think insulation is big on most buyers.
Nobody sits there and says,
yes.
Am I going to be paying $600 a month for electricity or $200 a month?
Yeah.
Nobody ever asked that question.
Yeah, so I think it's awesome that it's becoming a trend, even though I think people aren't. It's almost like fuel economy on a car. Like, do people really buy? There's a few people that buy the most economical, fuel efficient car, but most people don't. Most people have other reasons for picking the car they picked. So with houses, I think insulation is not one of those reasons that people pick the house. So it's awesome to see. People do pick kitchens. Kitchens are, so again, older homes and newer homes. Newer homes are having bigger, more open kitchens that are better for entertaining, big islands for gathering and spending time, because they're realizing we spend a lot of time in the kitchen, either cooking or eating, especially with coronavirus now, right? If you spent a year at home, I'm sure you would have loved a giant kitchen, right? So it's interesting, you go into older homes and you'll see some tiny kitchen, like it could be a big house still, but just in those days, it wasn't in the mindset to have a big kitchen. So I've seen some homes that were impressively large homes, from an older era, and they have a surprisingly small kitchen, and you go, huh. Like even if you remodel it, so you're still small. So bigger kitchens are a big trend. Lofts are very popular. People love lofts if you can get them. And then the funny one is gigantic master closets. So on a new construction home, you can find places with a master closet bigger than a bedroom. And it's cool. I mean, it's probably not the most efficient way to spend a space, but who wouldn't love a gigantic closet in their master bedroom? I wouldn't say no. I mean,
well, Americans with their trend of storage units.
Yeah.
Big closet isn't surprising, but
Yeah. So I mean, you'll still have a regular closet in the other rooms. So it's funny to see these absurdly large master closets. I like it, but in the same way that I like, a monster truck.
it's unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so for buyers in the film market, so they should look at fixer-uppers. Is there any other suggestions? Should they try to just store up money during this pandemic time and then wait till...
Yeah.
Is the seller's market going to dry up soon, do you see? Or do you see it lasting for 1 or 2 years?
Okay, yeah. So, yes, if you're struggling to land a house, right? So you've made some offers and you can't win, go for the fixer-upper. If you can get that, do it, because the money you spend on fixing it up goes into the house, goes into the value, right? And if it's the only house you can get, then better to get the one you can get than to not get the one you can't get. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Better to date the girl that likes you than to be in love with the one that doesn't. Is that a good analogy?
I'm thinking of that hockey one from Gretzky where he said, you miss all the shots you don't take. I think that was him.
Yeah. That would be like making an offer on every house. Anyway.
Yeah. I think it's to take the chance, because if you don't land a house and you don't get any equity, you don't get to move into that.
Yeah, I think it's different. I think it's yes, everybody wants the beautiful house. Whatever house is on the market right now, there are the most attractive houses, and most people want the most attractive houses, right? So people with cash are going to get those. So if you don't have a big pile of cash, then you got to settle for a less attractive house, but know that you can upgrade it. If you can't get the attractive house that everybody wants, get the less attractive house and fix up the flooring, the walls, and the kitchen, and you'll be in good shape. Because it is much better to get a house than to not get an amazing house. Does that make sense? It's better to get a house than to not get an amazing house. So that ties into the question of what should you do right now? Get whatever you can get, even if it's a townhouse or a condo, which that doesn't fit your dream of what house you wanted, but it'll get you into the market, and you'll stop paying rent. You're now paying a mortgage, and you're getting equity on an appreciating asset and building your wealth instead of continuing to pay rent. So even now, I think it still makes sense to say you wanted, and of course we all want an awesome house, right? But I don't have $500,000 laying around, so I got to get whatever I can afford. So when I bought my house, I brings me to another topic. We'll get to it. When I bought my house, I got the house that I could afford. I picked the best one I could find, and I bought that, right? So if you got, I don't know, if you got $250 as your approval, if you got a pre-approval for $250,000, that's probably not going to get you a great single family home in Las Vegas right now. So go out there and get the best thing you can get for $250 and invest in it, build your equity, because I've seen so many people that started in, I have a client, she started in a 1-bedroom condo, stayed in it, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, made equity of like $50,000, sold her condo, and then rolled that 50 into a down payment on a house that she loved. So you got to get in the game to start stepping up. If you're not, I guess that's a mistake. People try to step right into a perfect home right out the gate. But sometimes you got to step up from whatever step you can get onto. Like you got to get on the ladder before you can climb up it, I guess. We would all love an incredible mansion in Summerlin if we could afford it. We can't all afford it. So whatever you can afford, the way that I see people be happy is you get your pre-approval from the bank, whatever your budget is, or even if you're buying a home cash or whatever your budget is, you know your number now, right? And you just go get the best one at your budget. Because you know what you could afford, and you say, hey, I got the best one I could afford. So that's the way that I see people pick a home, and they're happy in it. The people I see that are not happy are the ones that keep searching for this perfect one, and they can't get it because it's out of their reach. So maybe that applies for life too, or relationships, or Lamborghinis, or whatever. Like, why reach for something you can't get?
Probably mainly in homes, less than like a Lamborghini or reaching for something like a relationship, because
Shoot for the stars.
The home is appreciating. So the sooner you get in, the better.
Maybe that's a big difference. Yeah. No, that's a great point. The getting in the game is a big crucial part of it. That's probably a brilliant point. Once you get into a home.
Well, you just said it earlier where that lady got 50,000, so that's...
Yeah, so I mean, once you're in the game, then you can continue to work towards your goal. But if you're waiting on the sidelines for that perfect shot, then it may not come.
It made it much harder because you're just constantly waiting, and the houses continue to go up in price as you're waiting. So
yeah, I see it as like you're in the ocean and you're swimming after a ship that's floating away faster than you can swim.
Probably, unfortunately, because the inflationary price of the dollar with the economy and the house pricing means the house is going to float away faster. Like,
yeah, I see it more simply as I don't disagree with any of that, but I see it more simply as home values increase faster than incomes increase. So whatever your average home is, whatever your average income is, the homes are floating out of reach.
Yeah. And unfortunately, if someone were to try to time the market, it's probably it's so rare for a market crash, an economy crash, a real estate crash that has it only happened once in the last?
For real estate, for home values, it's very rare to see a crash. So there was a big 08, 09.
Yeah. So if someone's trying to time the market, it's virtually once in a lifetime thing, and the chance that you're going to hit it right on the money.
Yeah, I mean, unless you were the genius that knew that one was going to happen and you bought a bunch of houses in 2009, if you show me that guy, then I'll believe him on his next strategy. But
yeah. Did you have on that piece of paper? Did you write down interesting points you want to bring up, or what specifically? I'm just curious.
I mean, that state of the market was the big one, in that I'm usually not a market guy, but the market is so skewed right now that you can't ignore. I've seen a lot of people that started off looking for regular homes and they've turned to new construction because you can't win a bid against these cash offers. But if you go buy a new construction home, you could put it, like, hey, I want lot number 3, and they'll write up the contract, and you gotta wait till August for it to finish completion, but you're in and you got it. So it's not like this competing thing. It was like shopping at the dealership.
Is there any clients that kind of take their frustration out on you, in the sense of, if they come in and they want to put an offer on a house and then it gets rejected, and you've already told them, hey, this is going to be bought out cash, you're going to either have to put in a high bid.
Yeah. Not that took their frustration out on me. It was one that kind of doubted if there was a better way to do it. And I was like, well, you go, try a different agent. So this particular person thought maybe a bigger real estate agency might have some leverage, because I'm at a great brokerage called Galindo Group that's a local family-owned brokerage. And this person thought maybe a big name, big brand brokerage could do something that me and my brokerage could not. I don't, it being in the business, I don't see it. But I was like, hey, we've obviously lost 5 bids because you don't have a pile of cash. Not your fault, but so if you want to try something else, go for it. Like, I want you to succeed. If they get her into a home that she loves, then I'll be super happy to see her get her goal, honestly. So I'd rather her get there than to struggle with me and be frustrated with me. And yeah, it's the market, because in a normal time, we could have got her a great home at a great price. But it's so skewed that she was not a strong buyer compared to these, super strong buyers. So that was a tough for me personally, because I really want to help people get into their homes. So it was tough to have that struggle, and to honestly recommend, hey, go try something else if you're not happy. Like, it's like, I don't want to keep you stuck to me if you want to try something else. So I hope that worked out. I had another client that kind of lost sanity a little bit. I don't want to say too much, but like, really just kooky. and because of the market, because it's stressful to buy a home, right? So just two cases where the pressure of the market caused a tough situation for the buyers, and I really feel for that. And I really, like, when you hear me talking about, it's a tough time for buyers, like, it's sad. Like, I almost don't want to take new buyers, because I know what a terrible time it is for buyers out there. Like, it's almost like I don't want to recruit new GIs, new soldiers, to go out and get slaughtered. It's like, don't join the army. I don't know. It's maybe a weird analogy and a weird feeling. I will, of course, still help anybody that wants my help. So I took on a new client a couple days ago to go buy houses, but there's a part of me that is like, oh, I don't want it. Like, if normally a real estate agent is happy to take all the buyers on earth, right? Like, you send me all your buyers, I'll help them buy houses. But it's so hard to buy houses right now that it's like, let's go into the meat grinder. Yeah. So
any new client, they're going to be going through the gauntlet.
Yeah. So do I want to lead you into the torture chamber?
Is there a little bit of a preface that you give them, and you just warn them ahead of time that it's a hard market?
Yeah, but do people really listen to? I mean, people can listen to you and hear the words you say. But there's a point where you can say, hey, it's a really tough market. Buyers are getting chewed up out there, and it's really hard to get a home. So you can say that rationally, and people can hear you rationally. But to go beyond that, it gets weird to be like, hey, man, this is a fucking terrible time to buy a house right now. I still think you should try like the devil to get one, but it's going to be miserable and it's going to suck. Like, that doesn't work too well, especially when you're just meeting somebody, right? Or just and you got introduced, or you got a new relationship that you're building. So it's hard to communicate that effectively enough, and everybody has their own experiences and their own beliefs and their own approach. If it's not the first home they bought, they might feel like, hey, I know what I'm doing. Like, yeah, I used realtors before. I got, it's cool, man. I know. I heard it's tough. So, yeah. So you can prep a little bit, but it's hard to impart how difficult it is right now for buyers. And I see it from other realtors too. Like, for example, my brokerage has a group chat. There's some Facebook groups. I have some cousins in other cities. And universally, you're seeing this pain. People will share their text conversations with sellers' agents who are assholes to them because they don't have a strong buyer, and they're like, I bring your highest and best offer. And so I'm seeing it everywhere across the U.S. I got a buddy in Dallas who's a broker. You see the pain throughout the industry. So nationwide, there's a supply-demand imbalance. So how do you communicate that to a new home buyer? It's hard because you don't want to shit all over the experience for them. You want to ideally get them into a home they love and have a happy experience and help them get there. So that's the challenge of balancing that warning, that heads up. Yeah, so we did cover a lot of the. I just wrote notes just in case we didn't have anything to talk about. Yeah. Oh, another thing on newer homes. I don't know if that's why I wrote it, but newer homes, you're going to see more stucco and tile roofs. part of that's insulation, but part of that's fireproofing. So stucco is basically cement on the outside of your house. And tile roofs are made out of cement. The Spanish style tiles, they're getting more squared now, but more slate looking. But the outside of all these modern homes are basically cement. So it's harder for them to catch on fire. So in the 70s and maybe early 80s, it was popular to have wood shingle roofs, and wood shingle is just pieces of wood, and they would dry up, and
Very Kindle.
you have firewood for a roof. So, not a terrible idea to build things out of wood, but fire loves wood. So that's a big difference in newer homes. Is more stucco, and like you'd have a hard time finding a home right now that isn't stucco and tile roofs. A new build, right? Even go around town, you have a hard time.
When you see people jumping back to the California thing, people moving from California to here, is there any? That means, well, you may not know the California real estate, but does that mean somehow the California real estate prices are going down and people are moving out, or is it just not enough from moving out to cause things here, but not to cause a downturn there?
Yeah, I think unfortunately that's the case, that all these people coming to Vegas is not nearly enough pressure relief in those high cost cities to bring those costs down. So if it was getting costlier here and cheaper there, you could say at least somebody's getting a benefit. But I think just overall, there's a shortage of supply. So, and again, California is a much bigger state than us. So Nevada population, I think, is about 3 million total, 2 million in Vegas. But California we have like 40 million people, probably like 8 million in San Diego or something. So, 10 or 20 million, however you want to count up LA. So just Southern California alone dwarfs us population and housing wise. So, whatever little percentage of people leaving there seems a lot bigger when they get here. and you hear California a lot. It is a variety of places and states. So like I said, you see some Chinese investors, you see people from all countries. It's a very international place. People from all states, but a large chunk is California. I think because, like me, when you live in San Diego, you get bored, you go out to Vegas. It's easy to just hop in the car and drive out. You got a 3-day weekend, or you're like, hey, we'll go to Vegas for a couple days, and so you drive out. You end up in Vegas a couple times a year, and you get very familiar with it. So only a small percentage of those people has to get that idea, like, hey, that's not a bad place. I can see living there, and it's just a drive away. So I think Californians as a neighbor are a very natural feed into Vegas. The proof in the pudding is, if you're going to use an old expression about pudding, the proof is the DMV when you turn in your license.
Don't say Bill Cosby.
He loves pudding and raping people. The DMV, when you turn in your license to become a local, you want to get a Nevada license, you turn in your old state ID. So 40% of the IDs are from California. So that's a very good data number to know that 40% of the people becoming locals now are from California. So that's a majority by far, like, 5% Florida, Texas, other Arizona, I think was in there. So the next closest state was right around 5% compared to 40% of who's coming to Vegas. So
for the people that already own a house, to see the price of their house, I don't really have a point to this. I'm thinking people that already own a house, they must be seeing their house value go up, so that must be nice. They just sit on it. I wonder if that has an effect on the supply and demand, meaning if someone already owns a house now, they see the prices going up and they're just like, well, why sell now? Just wait for it to go up more? Or
that's a great logic, and I wish everybody was smart financially. Stay in your home, hold on to it, build your equity, grow your wealth. Unfortunately, America is a spendy consumer, buy-it-all nation, and I just saw recently that a growing trend is more and more cash-out refinances. So that was a big problem during that 2008, 2009 crash. It was very irresponsible mortgages, but a lot of people were cashing out equity as that market went crazy. they're cashing out money from a home value and buying a Hummer or something, right? So a lot of times people are using it to pay off high interest debt like credit cards or something. So is it smart to use a low interest home equity loan to pay off high interest debt? Yes. Is it smarter to avoid high interest debt to begin with? Yes. So I wish people were conservative and smart and, doing everything right financially, but the American way is to overspend. And the minute you have some increase in value or income or wealth, people seem to run out to buy a new luxury vehicle or purses they can't afford. Does it make sense to spend $1,000 on a purse? If you're rich, who cares? But if you got kids to feed, why are you spending $1,000 on a purse when you can go get one at Nordstrom's Rack or whatever for $60? So I don't know too much about it, but I fear that it looks like the cash out refis are growing.
Let's play that scenario out for fun thought experiment on that. So say someone takes $80,000 out of their house, out of their equity, buy a Tesla. And now, so they got the Tesla and the house. Now, let's try to guess. I don't know how we could guess what the pandemic's going to do in the next 2 years.
Teslas are great. You can afford it. They're awesome.
So in 2 years, we expect COVID should be hopefully dealt with, and we should be back to normal. But
I hope,
maybe the economic impact has yet to hit.
Yeah.
So thought experiment would end us thinking potentially someone could lose their job, or their house value probably goes down. Wait, could go down. Could go down. Then, but they still own the Tesla. But then they're paying a bigger mortgage now, right? Because they took the equity out.
So there's two big parts to that. One is your home equity can be a safety cushion, right? So if something terrible happens, you got that you can tap into. But if you already tapped into it to buy a car you didn't need, Teslas are great, right? I'm not against Tesla. I think they're awesome, right? But if you ain't got a ton of money, is it smarter to buy a used Corolla that is just as reliable and gets you to work, right? Are you doing anything with the Tesla besides driving to work? Then just get a different car. There's a cheaper way to get to work, right? So if you tap into your home equity, then you've already kind of spent that possible emergency fund if you lose your job or something, right? So that emergency fund is already spent. And the other terrible thing about it is your home is your biggest appreciating asset and the number one way for Americans to grow wealth in some way. There's not a lot of appreciating assets out there. Your home is one of the best ones that Americans can do. If you tap into the home equity, you're taking away the appreciation. You're spending the appreciation and converting from an appreciating asset into a depreciating asset. As fantastic as a Tesla S Plaid drag racing badass machine is, it will depreciate. So you spent, you consumed, you've done the American thing, and you bought the dream, and it's rad, but it hurts your long-term wealth as a working adult. The hours you work are getting spent on that thing instead of being conserved and maintained. Not that wealth growth is the only goal. There's a certain amount of wealth where you're just going to end up spoiling your kids when they inherit it. So up to the point where you have the wealth that you need, I think that's great. If you start growing wealth at other people's expense just to leave it as an inheritance to your spoiled fucking kids, I don't care for that. But up to that point, I would advise, if you can resist cashing out your home equity to spend unwisely, to consume, so there's some balance of consumption and smart financial moves.
What do you see? I'm just going to jump topics to, what do you think about people buying a second home? People that want to
It's a great question.
Build their wealth even more, what things should they think about on their second home? what things change?
It's great. If you got your house in order, if you got all your ducks in a row, if you got all your money squared away, you're in great shape, and you got extra money you don't know what to do with, a great asset you can buy is a second home and then rent that out, right? In some way, shape, or fashion. So now you've got another appreciating asset that somebody else is paying you rent on. If you can buy it outright for cash, that's awesome, because then you don't have to worry about an expense on the mortgage for it. If you have to take a mortgage to do it, then you're counting on that rent to cover that mortgage. So you're playing that balancing game of, okay, assuming this tenant's going to pay in the rent, I'm going to use that to cover all or most of the mortgage and expenses. A lot of times people are doing it and they're barely covering, and they're waiting for the equity appreciation, the home value growth, and they're just covering the costs for now. And say, hey, if I rent this out for 10 years from now, it'll be worth a lot more, and will have effectively been paid for by the rentor, and I get that equity. I'm okay with that. As an individual, I would recommend anybody can do that. If you can do that, great, right? So you're going to make a little bit more money, right? That's great for that person. In the big scheme of thing, I don't know if it's good overall for everybody, because what you then have is the rich getting richer. So say a dentist makes better money than most people, and he can afford to get that second home, but some other guy, some other family can't quite buy their home yet, but home prices have gone up, and this guy's got two. And so he's going to rent it to that family, and now the family's got a place to stay, but now they're paying rent and they're not paying into their own equity. So in effect, that poorer family, that wealth goes to the wealthier guy who had the head start. So that imbalance, I think, this goes into economics. I don't know.
You're going into more morality in economics than...
I mean, so wealth disparity is a problem when the people at the top get too much and the people at the bottom aren't getting enough. So I think we're starting to see that, and we see it in a dual income, regular working couple or working family in Vegas can't get an average home. So does it behoove us, does it help anybody if the richest people keep buying up all the houses and we all have to rent? I mean we, but I'm the common man. I'm with you. I'm with the poor people. So I've driven lots of old Corollas. So does it help us if the rich are grabbing up everything and the poor aren't getting a fair share, right? It's an unfair imbalance, and so if you can do it, I recommend you go ahead and be rich. If you can get on the rich side, good for you, right? Bad for other people. So as a whole, if you could do it, great, right? So you can get more money, you can retire sooner or something, right? Or you can help other people or live better. If you're getting richer and spending it on luxury goods to show other people how rich you are, what's the point of that? I don't know. So in the end, I think there should be some protection for working people who are residents. There should be some preference. And I don't know how to do that, because I've been talking about affordable housing my whole life. You always hear this term, affordable housing. Where is it? Show me the affordable housing. So for 40 years, I ain't seen it. So what do they need to do? Maybe you put a giant tax on a non-resident, non-primary home. So if you're a resident there in the city, and this is your primary home that you're going to live in, maybe you can buy that in a regular way. And if it's not your primary home, it's your second or third home, and maybe if you don't live here in this city, maybe we put a giant tax on it, so that effectively you give a preference to the people that need it, right?
Yeah.
So you put a giant tax on it, you're not hurting that rich person. You just say, hey, if you want to buy a second home, there's a giant tax. What do you do with the giant tax? Feed it to programs that help people get their first home, right? So there's all kinds of programs to help people buy their first home with down payments or closing costs or whatever, right? That's what I think. That's not very exciting talk, but...
No, I mean, I personally like it. I you know me, I love the morality of things.
Yeah.
yeah, if someone's buying 2 or 3 or 4 houses, I completely see that means they're renting it out, and then the people who wanted to buy that house, maybe the market value has gone up because all these rich people are buying those houses. And I mean, to some extent, you're kind of seeing that right now. When you're talking about cash offers are coming to houses right now, that means rich people.
Yeah, if you got 400 grand cash, you're pretty richer than most people, right?
And during a pandemic, that's even it's just it's a crazy world that we live in. We got a pandemic, and we got rich people buying up houses cash.
Yeah.
When the common person, if they want to buy their first house, they can't because it's just the prices are going up. So
yeah.
It's nuts. I don't know.
Woo!
There's vodka in there. That's what we get on the show is vodka.
The show gets happier towards the end.
Yeah, I love the idea of trying to help everyone out.
Not that I'm a big fan of taxes, or I'm not that I'm against people doing well and working hard. Like, I know people that work really hard and succeed from their hard work, and I'm all for that, right? There's some people that are lucky, and I'm like, okay, it's cool that you're lucky, but it seems like the squeeze is too much, right? The imbalance is too much.
Yeah.
You know, it's great if you're lucky, and it's terrible if you're not so lucky. You know,
and even with the secondary house tax, secondary local house tax.
Yeah.
Even if someone was rich enough to have, if they have one house and they got money, they could just upgrade to a bigger house. That's kind of they could keep that as their primary. So I was trying to think of a counter argument. Someone that says, "Hey, I worked real hard. Why can't I buy 2 houses?" Well, you've worked hard. Go and buy one upgrade to a bigger house. I guess.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, 500 grand in Vegas buys you a pretty nice house.
Yeah.
You get up into the 6, 7, you're talking some spectacular. Still, well, so this supply and inventory crunch, it's funny. It's centered on the prime single family home, like a 3-bedroom, 2-car garage house with a yard. You know, a regular house. That's where all that demand is, right? The moment you get so you can find 2-bedroom houses. There's single-story, small 2-bedroom houses. Most people don't want a 2-bedroom house because they have this idea of, hey, I'm gonna have some kids. I need a home office, right? Most people think 2 bedrooms is not a house. They think 3, 4 bedrooms for a house, right? So most homes in Vegas are 3 or 4 bedrooms, mostly 3. So if you were shopping for 2-bedroom houses, you might even find a 2-bedroom house with a den, which is effectively a bedroom, but people don't see it because they're searching 3-bedroom up. They're thinking, 2 bedrooms? I'm not going to get a 2-bedroom. Doesn't make any sense. Why would I get a 2-bedroom house? But if you buy a 2-bedroom house, you're a little bit outside of that prime hunting zone. Or you can get an awesome condo, right, just over $200,000. You get an amazing condo with 2-car garage and 3 bedrooms. And it doesn't have a yard, but it has everything, as long as you're not spending a lot of time in your yard. Or if you want to trade you get a community pool and a little weight room instead of your own yard. If you're happy with those differences, you can get an amazing condo for a lot less money and have all the functionality. But most people aren't searching for that, right? Because they have this idea, no, I wasn't trying to buy a condo, I'm trying to buy a house. So if you get outside of that prime search function, so what also happens price-wise too, if you go up past where people can afford, there's less and less competition. So the higher price you go, there's less competition in that zone. So in a weird way, if you go from a $300,000 to a $400,000 house, there's not a whole lot of, you can point out what's different or bigger about the $400,000 house, better location or whatever, right? You start going up 500 and then 600, it starts to get real objective. Especially as you hit $1 million, it gets subjective as to what made it worth that much more. Like, yeah, it's super nice, super fancy, right? But you can find a $700,000 3-bedroom house. It's like, well, you're not buying 7 times as many bedrooms or anything, so it's a weird thing. So as you go up in pricing, you kind It's like an airliner getting up into the thinner air. It gets easier to fly.
Is there a strategy for the 2-bedroom houses? Meaning, most people are searching for 3 or 4-bedroom house. Mm-hmm. Is there a strategy to get into a 2-bedroom? Does the economy grow with that well? Meaning, does the price of the 2-bedroom also go well? Like, do you see what I'm getting at?
Again, when you go to sell it, it's harder to sell a 2-bedroom house. You buy a 2-bedroom with a den and convert that den into a bedroom, then you're back in the prime time. Especially if it's a 1-story home, because a lot of those 2-bedrooms, they're not 2-story homes. 1-story homes have a special attraction for people who don't want stairs anymore, especially as you get older, or if your knees start hurting, or if you're in a wheelchair or some kind of walker. So as we get older, stairs become more and more of a challenge. So 1-bedroom homes have a special value. So if you get a 2-bedroom with a den, convert the den into a bedroom, you automatically are converting into the bottom of that prime.
And you said 1-bedroom, but you meant a single floor.
Sorry, yes, one story.
1 story, yeah.
Yes.
What are you talking about? What's the price range on the 2-bedroom versus the 3-bedroom? Meaning, can I get into a 2-bedroom for $150 versus a 3-bedroom's $300, or what's the?
Let's call it $280 for a 2-bedroom with a den.
And then.
So in the next door, if there's a 3-bedroom home that's 2 stories.
Yep.
$320.
So then let's take that 5 to 10 years out. Is that $280 gonna only go up so much, but the 3 bedrooms, the price is gonna be so much higher? Does that happen, or?
It almost doesn't matter because you're not buying it on maximum investment potential. You're buying it on what's the best thing I can get into right now with my budget. So I don't want a buyer to go, I got to stretch, I got to get to that 3-bedroom because I might make 4% more in price appreciation by the time I sell.
Well, yeah. So, now if it was a price appreciation, that you said 4%, do you think that's
Let's
actually?
pull it out of my ass, yeah.
So my question is it somehow 75% or 100%? No, I doubt that.
No. So so in a general sense, that 3-bedroom, 2-car garage, that prototype. What do you call it? That
common family size home.
Yeah, that general basic house is the thing that everybody wants. So yeah, that's gonna grow with the market, right? The 2-bedroom is not gonna not grow with the market. It's gonna come right along, but it'll always be just behind that prime time.
But how bad? Like, I don't know. Is there a way to guess a ballpark?
I haven't done the analysis on it, but
I'm thinking if I heard this conversation, if I was interested in buying a home and I was in the shoe right at that price point where I could almost afford a 3, I could definitely afford a 2. Mm-hmm. Should I just get in a 2? So I think going back to that statement, just shop for what you're pre-approved for.
Yeah, get the best thing you can get.
That's price.
When you're ready.
Step number 1.
Yeah.
Step 2 may be considering the pros and cons of if you could almost slide into a 3-bedroom, or you could only afford the 2.
Yeah. So what happens is most of the time, people are they got kids, and they got a job that they're commuting to. So there's, I think, other factors that tend to
insulation.
Yes. at factor number 27, insulation. But I think there are bigger factors. You're not just choosing, because you're not going to find the 2 houses right next to each other and go, oh, do I want to squeeze into the 2-bedroom or stretch to get the 3? I think it's usually not that weird of a choice. It's that we got a lot of dogs, so we need a little bit of yard for our dogs. And we need to be, I don't want the kids to have to move to a different school.
Yeah.
But these other factors, I think, tend to outweigh that particular hypothetical question.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to discount your question. I think what I see in people is other factors.
And maybe the story earlier also overrides my 2-3-bedroom thought.
Yes.
The story earlier with that woman that bought the 1-bedroom condo, and now Was it?
Uh-huh.
She got 50,000 equity and now bought a house.
Yeah.
So that probably debunks my two bedroom, 3 bedroom idea of the costs.
Yeah, if you get in it, get into something and focus on maximizing your equity. So one way you can do that, I don't know how much I've said on your show before, or if I'm repeating anything, but just pay that extra $100 a month. Have I said that before?
That doesn't sound familiar.
Okay, so say you bought that 2-bedroom, 1-story house, and you convert the den into a third bedroom, right? So yeah, small house. You might be at like 13. Most people want a bigger place. Whatever, that was what you could afford, right? So you stay there for 5 years. You're paying down your mortgage, right? And the market appreciation is going up. So you pay down your mortgage a little bit. The market goes up. Now you walk with this much equity, right? You can pay extra on your monthly payment. If you got an extra $100 a month that you don't need to do something else with, instead of buying more shoes or paying for a storage unit, or something, or here in Vegas we have local taverns where you can go play Keno and blackjack, and it's a great way at the bar tops.
We're Americans, man. We're gonna live up to every penny that we make.
Right. So I'm not against people enjoying those things, but
you're saying a very fantastic financial advice, basically.
I don't give financial advice.
Okay,
but in a mortgage, you can pay a little bit extra every month. Over time, it'll have a big impact. So if you're not going to miss an extra $100 a month, you can put that down on you can pay extra $100 a month in your mortgage, and it's not only paying down $100 of your principal, but 30 years of interest on that $100. So it can really, if you start paying down your mortgage aggressively, you can really make a difference and build your equity in, so that now when you want to move to your next home, you sell that. Now you got the biggest possible wad of cash to use on your next.
Is there any benefit on that within, like, say 10 years? So say 10 years, I have a mortgage. I've been paying an extra $150 every month for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Is there any benefit for doing that? Like, say, so that builds up my equity.
Yeah.
Oh, so then I could try to get into a bigger house sooner,
or have more cash equity, or have more equity to use on your next house, right?
Yeah.
Again, you're building wealth instead of consuming the American way.
Yeah, you're putting money in an appreciating asset versus just consuming and throwing it away, basically.
Yeah. So for those of you playing along at home, do 150 a month. So 150 times 12 times 10 years. So 150 times 120. That's how much more cash you're going to have in equity, plus whatever interest would have accrued on those amounts, because once you pay it down, the interest is not accruing on that amount, just on the rest of your principal. So it'll be that amount plus interest. So you're winning in little ways continuously. So if you had spent an extra $150 a month on, say, one more fancy dinner, or one more awesome pair of shoes, or whatever you tend to spend money on, right?
So it'd be crap. I was trying to do the math in my head. 16,000.
No, we're on the show. They can do the math.
So in 10 years, does that also grow with the price of the house? As in, how do we do the math easily? If it's a $200,000 house,
280.
280, and in 10 years, it's probably gonna be 400,000 in 10 years.
Well, so if you want to do the math, so in the last 5 years in Vegas, the home value appreciation has been around 10-12%, and then in the last 3 months, it's been higher than that. So if you want to go conservative, give it a 5 or 8% appreciation in home values, right? Assuming the market keeps going, right? So who knows if the market will level off or correct or what, right? So go conservative, call it a 5% appreciation on your 280 over 10 years, but it also compounds, right? So 5% of 280.
You're talking about the mortgage. I'm talking about like the value. If you pay
Home appreciation. Yeah.
if your equity, if you pay 16,000 in equity, within an extra 16,000 in equity.
Okay. If you pay down your mortgage, an extra 16 in principal.
Because as your house value goes up on the market, does that mean the 16,000 that you actually put in is somewhat worth 20,000 because the prices?
No, they're two separate. They're two separate parts of the same equation. In that one is your plus and one is your minus. The home value, whatever it's worth on the market, is your plus, and then whatever you owe on the place is your minus. So if you can minimize what you owe, then you subtract less of your amount owed out of your equity.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
Gotcha.
fascinating math talk. So another thing, do you want to change subjects or?
No.
Another thing I'm getting a lot is the market is on fire, right? Homes are, home values are going up. It's crazy market. So people, a lot I'm hearing, they go, oh man, you must be doing great. You're a realtor. And it's like, well, no, I mean, house values are going up really fast. So, the market sucks out there for buyers. As a realtor, all that matters is, do I have a client? Because if the market's on fire and I'm not helping anybody buy a house, then I'm not. It's a commission-only gig, so I only get a commission if I'm in a sale or a buy to help somebody get there. So if I'm not a part of anybody's transaction, I get no commission. So it's funny that people make this. The market's doing really great. You must be getting rich right now. It's like, well, no. I mean, yeah, I happen to have a lot of clients right now, but it baffles me because why do you want to buy now when it's really difficult? Like, I wish I had all these clients back in October. Not that I wasn't doing anything in October, but it would have been a lot easier to get them houses they wanted in October before this crunch of supply and demand. So it's weird to me that people have that reaction. And so I don't know, I kind of feel like an asshole explaining it that way of like, no, all that matters is if I have a client or not. So even if the market was going down, same story. It could be going down. If I got no clients, I ain't making no commission. But if I got a ton of clients, then what do I care that they're buying it for 10% less or 20% less, because I still get a commission based on that home value. Yeah, it's a slightly less commission, but in the realtor game, to make a living at it, I think really then what matters is volume, right? Unless you're going to chase the biggest possible sale. Like if I make $2 million sale, if I could sell one mansion this year, I'm good, right? You could try to do that, but that's a different game than literally helping as many people as you can. So to me, I think it's a volume game of 'cause people also do the math, right? They go, oh, are you making 2 or 3% on a $300,000 home? That's a big paycheck, right? Well, yeah, but there's costs. I got to maintain all this licensing. I got to pay for the brokerage. I got there's costs of doing business. But say on a transaction, if I clear $4,000, right, after taxes and everything, you can pay your own taxes. Say I clear $4,000, that's great. Well, how much is your salary? How many 4,000s do you need to get to your yearly salary? How many transactions a year do I have to do to get to some reasonable salary comparable to a job? Right, so at least 10, maybe 15. So everybody thinks they can be a realtor, right? The market's hot. I want to be a realtor. I want to make all this money. Okay, can you get 15 home buyers and sellers to pick you and trust you to do this transaction with them? It's a real challenge. It's hard, especially when you first start out. How are you going to get some clients against this realtor who's been doing it for 20 years? This guy's got it locked down. Everybody knows him, right? He's on the radio. I trust the guy. Like I've seen him on the billboard, right? So how do you compete against industry veterans when you're a fresh newbie? And especially if you're young looking, right? If you're in your 20s, it's hard to convince people, hey, I'm going to help you with your big house transaction. I know what I'm doing. Like, do you own a house? No, one day I will. I know all about it, right? So it's a hard game to get into. I enjoy it, but it's precarious for a lot of people who, I can't believe how often I hear this. It's like, hey, you know what? I just bought a house a couple years ago and I really enjoyed shopping for a house. I think I would really like doing that. Like, whoa, you enjoyed shopping for a house? Like everybody enjoys shopping. Like, did you enjoy the good contracts and the paperwork and negotiating. And no, you let the realtor do that. Like, if you become the realtor, you got to do the hard part. You got to do the problem solving. You got to, if something falls apart, what are you going to do? If you're buying a condo that's in probate and there's a court decision that affects the transaction, do you know how to handle that? Like, well, that's the job of the realtor. It's not shopping. Anybody can shop. We all go on the internet and look at awesome houses, right? We were just looking at one in San Diego down at Pacific Beach. We had a good time looking at this awesome house. But that's not the job. The job is the transaction of buying and selling a home and really putting out fires, right? Dealing with problems when they arise. So I also sound like an asshole when people ask me how hard is it to be a realtor. Like, I don't recommend it for most people because it's real hard to pay the bills, especially that first year. So again, I don't know if I rattled off stats on your show before, but like 80% of first-year realtors don't renew their license because it's, if you got bills to pay or kids to feed, it's tough to make enough money to equal a salary, tough to get enough transactions. And then even the people that keep their licenses, 60% of realtors do 0 transactions in Vegas. So that's a stat I heard. So that tells me there's a lot of people that have that realtor license, they're at a brokerage and not succeeding at getting clients. There are some agents that are killers and they're just, well, I don't say killers, they're rock stars at getting clients. They're super charming. They got a whole team. They've got a whole system. They got whatever is going on to get tons of clients. So they're real successful. But for every superstar agent you see, there's probably dozens of, people that don't have whatever special it takes to wake up in the morning and self-motivate and go out and be everybody's friend and be nice to everybody and smile through the tears. And
I think during the interviews on this show, the conversations, seeing people that learn their craft too, like for you to be able to, I mean, this is you're the first person to do a second podcast on this, on my show. But you're able to talk about real estate for that much. What I'm getting at is you obviously know a lot about real estate, where I know, I don't know if I haven't talked to many other real estate agents, but there's something that tells me, just like every other profession that I've that I've talked to, there's certain people that you talk to and they don't know much about the profession. So for real estate, hopefully that's what makes you one of the better ones, at least morally or educationally, intellectually.
Well, thank you. That's a great compliment.
Because
I appreciate that. Yeah,
there's a lot of people that just kind of float by and they may not know their craft very well.
Yeah, I mean, you can be a lackadaisical real estate agent, and you can be lucky, or you can take whatever comes, or you can be great at marketing and not be great at problem solving. You could be great at getting clients and not great at fixing. So in real estate, there's a transaction, there's buyer, seller, there's a contract, there's all these pieces that come together. There's title and escrow, there's lenders. There's a lot of places where the things can go wrong. You work real hard to keep everything on track and working smoothly and on timelines. You could be terrible at when things go off the track, but you could be great at getting people to pick you as a realtor. So that's a conundrum. And it's funny, I have people that come to me and then I discover like, oh, you just bought a house 3 years ago? You bought this house 3 years ago. Oh, well, I mean, I usually don't ask till later in the transaction or after we're done. I'm like, hey, I'm just curious, why didn't you use the realtor that helped you buy this house? Like, presumably a realtor helped you buy this house. Why didn't you call them up or whatever? They were fine. They just never followed up or kept in touch, or one client was telling me the realtor interactions they had were kind of older dudes that were very formal and stiff and didn't feel that connection and trust. So it's interesting to me always when I get a client, if you never bought or sold a home before, then it makes sense. Like, you got to find some realtors, and maybe it was just me, right? But if people end up picking me after having had some other realtor, I also think that's a great compliment, and I'm really happy hey, I must be doing something right. But then I'm so curious as to, oh man, what went wrong? Because everybody I've ever dealt with, I've done everything I could to be a great realtor and stay in touch with them even, right? Like, because I care about them as people. Like, today's Easter, 2021, and one of my clients that I helped last year, she's sending me a happy Easter. She's contacted me because we're legitimately friends, right? You know, and I'm like, hey, I hope you and your whole family have a great Easter also. You know, has something to do with Jesus coming out of a cave after dying with bunny rabbits and painting eggs. So I'm not celebrating Easter. I'm here doing a podcast, but that connection is real, right? That person remembers me and cares about me. So I don't know if that's too sappy, but I think that's the part of the humanity of the job.
I theorize. I haven't dealt with real estate. I used to work at a company that dealt with a lot of real estate agents and HOAs.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate that the majority of the problems came from either real estate agent or the HOA process, the paperwork processing person. I forget what they're called.
Is it the property management companies? Here, I can tell you what I see is, so especially when buying condos, but any place that has an HOA, a homeowners association, in the business, it's also called a community in common in legal parlance. Communities in common, CIC, is almost always the same thing as an HOA here in Las Vegas. So there's an HOA. So an HOA is made up of people that live there, and they meet once a month, and they, decide on rules and violations, but they're typically not lawyers, and there's all this legal stuff and all this maintenance and work to do. But they have their own lives. They're just on the HOA board. So typically they'll outsource the work to a property management company that specializes in doing that HOA stuff. So issuing citations and maintaining all the legal documents. They have the bylaws. They have the budget to worry about, all the finances of the HOA, because if you're collecting people's money and paying for the landscaping and paying to fix roofs or whatever, it becomes a full-time job pretty quickly. So the guy that lives down the street, he didn't have full time to be working at the HOA. So anyway, I'm getting long-winded, but there's a property management company that's doing kind of the day-to-day work of an HOA. So whenever you buy or sell a home, and now there's an HOA involved in that transaction because that HOA has power over the ownership of that property. So a lender, for one, is going to want to know, is this a legit HOA? Do they have their shit together? Let's check out if there's any lawsuits against them, right? If there's some gigantic lawsuit against a condo complex, I don't know if we want to make a loan for you to buy into this problem, right? So there's all kinds of things like that happen, and it can complicate the transaction if there's some pitfalls there. So realtors typically don't want to hassle there. They want to get the transaction done, right? Because they don't get their commission unless the house sells. The buyer or seller, right? The agent don't get no money till the transaction completes. So typically they want all that to go through. The property management company, in my experience, is oftentimes the hiccup. And it baffles me because, especially in a condo complex, there's like 300 units. It's not like this is the first time somebody's buying or selling. Like, this must happen pretty often. And I can look in the records, hey, look, 5 condos sold this year already. Like, you already had to do this 5 times. Why is this such a pain in the ass for you to figure this out the 5th time? Haven't you been through this song and dance? Like, you're getting paid to do this. Why is this difficult? So it's my frustration with property management companies not taking pride in doing an excellent job the way that we all wish everybody would. I don't know if that was your question.
No, that described it pretty well. I think those people doing that paperwork, from my understanding dealing with them, they weren't getting paid very much to do all that.
Yeah.
So I could see it on both sides. I could see that some of their work just required a lot of data gathering and not so much mental processing. So therefore, you could say their job wasn't highly educated so that they can be paid less. But that's unfortunate because then it holds up selling and buying deals. Between them and the real estate agents where I work, that they unfortunately there's a lot of real estate agents that called and had no idea what they're doing. Like every single house has an escrow demand, regardless of HOA, right? So some agents would call in and almost have no idea what a escrow demand was.
Yes.
And that was baffling to me. And we asked them like, hey, how long have you been doing this? And they try to say, oh, I've been doing this for 15 years. It's like, we don't think so. So, anyways, where was I going with all that?
No, that happens a lot where somebody's a good salesman and good with people, and they're not so good on the back end of doing the paperwork and the homework and the contracts. And you can have agents who have maintained their license for 30 years, and if they're only doing a transaction every other year or so, there's a lot of people that maintain a license that aren't doing a lot of transactions. And in a recent case, there was the other agent had his license, he didn't do a lot of transactions, but he wasn't a jerk about it. And he was kind of, once he saw that I was good, he was kind of upfront. He's like, hey, I don't do, you can take the lead, and I'm asking you questions, and you obviously got your shit together. So he didn't say it in that way, but what I took it as, hey, I'm doing a lot more deals, so I'm not, and he trusted me not to steer us wrong or try to get one over on him. So it became a very cooperative deal where I just had the experience of doing this a lot. So I'm like, hey, I know what's going to happen. I'll tell you, and like I'll tell you what you need to do so that you don't fuck it up. Like it's real easy. But you have a lot of agents that would try to bluff their way through, right? And anytime, I don't know, it's almost a giveaway. Anytime somebody comes out too early and says, oh, I've been doing this 20 years. It's like, well, what are you covering? Like, you don't need to tell people how long you've been in the business unless you're trying to inspire confidence that's not there. So it's almost, not universally, but if somebody comes at you with, I've been doing this for 20 years, watch out for
compensation.
Yeah, what are they yeah. That's the best way to put it, yeah. So I mean, in any world, there's good and bad, right? So I've been lucky to meet a lot of great real estate agents, but there's some bad apples, there's some bluffers, there's some aggressive people, there's some idiots,
How many deals have you done that dealt with HOAs?
Most of them.
So
yes.
Yeah, I want to say I thought I remember some figure like 60% of all homes are in HOAs, or 60 or 80.
I could say in Vegas it's probably higher than that. So any condo or townhome is going to share common areas and share roofs with other properties. So anytime you have shared stuff like that, or you almost necessitates an HOA. So I don't know in Vegas, let's keep it to Vegas. I don't know in Vegas of any condos or townhomes don't have an HOA. So those all have HOAs. And then most homes built from about the 90s and after tend to have HOAs. That's just the way people want to buy, and they want to have that. It became more popular, and people want that protection of a governing body that keeps the neighborhood nice, protects your home value, right? So there's good and bad with an HOA. They're going to tell you can't park your plumbing truck on the street in front of everybody's houses, or you can't keep a commercial truck. That's a big one, right? So you can't run your dump truck business and keep your dump trucks here on our street, because now we got a street full of dump trucks, right? So that's good, but then you have this hassle of an organization telling you what you can and can't do. So it's good and bad. But so most homes after in the 90s up to now, we're at 2021, so the last 30 years, most new homes have HOAs. So you can find homes from the 80s and 70s in Vegas, but there's a lot fewer of them than there are homes that were built after, because the growth is such that just a lot more got built more recently.
What's common things to look out for when home buyers are dealing with an HOA?
What's funny is that's, again, not one of those determining factors. It's like, I love the house, I love the neighborhood, I know it has an HOA. So you get some people that are like, I don't want an HOA. And I respect that, and I I can totally feel that. Like, there's a lot of times where I would love a place where I could do whatever the fuck I want. Park all my dump trucks, motherfucker. So, park my army of dump trucks. It's such an American thing. I feel like I'm moving my chair out of spot here. Yeah, such an American thing to want to do whatever you want on your property, right? To have my land, I can do whatever I want. I think it's hard as homes are denser and denser. You live closer and closer to your neighbors. It helps to have some rules so you can all get along. If you had a lot of land, you can do whatever the fuck you want. The closer you are to your neighbors, the more you're going to affect them with loud music or whatever, right? Or if you paint your garage door bright pink, that's going to affect your neighbors a lot more if you got 6 neighbors right near you that can see it out their front door. So if somebody says, I want a home with no HOA, I'm with it. But you're also consigning yourself to homes built in the 70s and 80s, almost. Because it's real hard to find 60s homes in Vegas, and real hard to find after the 90s without an HOA in the normal price range. So, are you okay with the homes that were built in the 70s and 80s? Over here in Spring Valley, right near the IKEA, if you know Vegas, there's an awesome area where a lot of homes from the late 80s. I think those are the best value. You get a pretty big yard, no HOA. Pretty new houses, not brand new, but you know, so I think that's kind of a sweet spot. It's also a sweet spot for value. The price you're paying for a comparable home, I think there's a great deal there in Spring Valley, not because of IKEA, but just as a landmark. That's a great spot. If you don't want an HOA, search around there. When people are buying a home, they like beautiful homes, and they accept there's going to be an HOA. It's weird because there's not a lot of vetting on, is it a good or bad HOA? Maybe that's a website business idea of rate my HOA. It would probably be all complaints though.
Yeah, it would be.
How bad is my fucking HOA.com?
Working at that company, yeah. A lot of people complain about HOAs.
Yeah, it's a strange, annoying governance. A strange, annoying, voluntary governance. It's kind of like going to the dentist because you are walking yourself involuntarily to torture yourself. So I think dentists and HOAs are this weird, necessary evil.
I'm gonna have Yole come talk to you about that.
About dentistry and HOAs.
She loves dental hygiene.
Yeah, so it's a weird thing. People pick the house, and you get an HOA package that is all the documents and rules and regulations that you can review. So unless you read through the rules and we're gonna do something that is expressly prohibited. So for example, if you wanted to park your boat in your driveway, so you got a speedboat or something and you usually keep it on a trailer in your driveway, and the HOA says you cannot park your boat in your driveway or your front yard. Maybe you were planning to keep it on the yard next to the driveway, right? That might be a deal breaker if you go, oh, well, shit, I'm not going to give up my speedboat. I got to go find a different home where I can park my boat in my front yard like I normally do. So that's an example of something. Most of the things they prohibit are not crazy stuff. I saw one that was you could have 5 total domestic pets, no more than 3 cats or 3 dogs, but 5 total. So you couldn't have 3 cats and 3 dogs, but you could have 2 and 3. And so to me, that was a strange algorithm to... It didn't say anything about parrots. I have seen no chickens, because there's some 1 out of 100 people that thinks raising chickens in the backyard is awesome. And you can imagine how a rooster at sunrise can be very painful for your neighbors. So,
is there any important things to actually consider with HOAs that people don't consider? But I guess you just said they're usually not.
Yeah, the thing that people don't know to look at is the reserve study. So the reserve study is, to simplify it, is they're going to look at the budget and the money of the HOA. So you're paying nowadays you're paying your $100, $150 a month. On condos, it can be higher, usually closer to $200, because there's a lot more cost to maintaining the whole building. But anyway, say 150 to 200 bucks a month you're paying to an HOA. You got to account for that money. Where's it being spent, right? So you got landscaping. It might include garbage dumpsters. We got to re-asphalt these roads, and then they might re-asphalt every 30 years or something. So you got to budget in. That's a big expense that's going to happen in 2038. So there's a weird accounting, but you can project these costs and know what's coming down the track. And so they have special companies that you hire them to do a reserve study, do a report on, excuse me, my throat's getting dry, but. So you do the reserve study and they kind of break it down easily. Are you, based on your expenses, we recommend, not me, but the reserve study company, we recommend you should be funded to this much. You should have this much in the bank. Based, they do a math of how much money's coming in, how much money's going out. We want you to have this much and some extra just in case something terrible happens, some unexpected, say a tornado blows through or something, right? So the reserve study says you should have this much, and they usually report it as a percentage funded. So if you're over 50% funded, you're probably okay because they have to cover their ass into a very high catastrophic number, right? So is a tornado going to come tear up your community? Probably not. So are you preparing for something that's never going to happen? Yeah. So if you're above 50% funded, you're probably good. Above 70%, you're good. Like I wouldn't worry. Like that's great. If you start getting down below 50% funded, then there's a concern there that your HOA is not collecting enough money to cover the costs of running that organization. So that's one thing that people aren't familiar with and don't know to look at, is to check out the reserve study and find that percentage. If you're above 50%, pretty good. I mean, it's up to you in the end, right? What are you comfortable with? Me personally, I would buy a house if it's over 50% funded. Definitely over 70% funded, I'm totally, do it. No worries.
The pricing on HOAs, the monthly fee varies so much, like 100, probably 110 all the way up to 400, depending on what you're getting. Have you seen people sway away from buying a place because of the price, or what is there to consider when looking at that?
Yeah, most people don't. Most people, again, are picking the house and they go, oh, that's 130 a month. Okay. Right. Me, I was a little more, when I bought my house, I was a little more, maybe it's my accounting background. I'm like, I think it was like $47 a month or something. And I was like, that sounds very good compared to the $80 a month place. Because I know it's a monthly recurring cost. And now being a realtor, I don't think that's the right way to look at it. No bullshit. I think the right way to look at it is, do I get something for that $150 a month, right? If you get a gate at the front with a keypad and they do some landscaping and there's a little dog park where they put the bags for people to pick up the poop, you got to count up what are the things that are included in this HOA. So at a condo or a townhome, you might have a nice community pool and a jacuzzi. I might go out into that jacuzzi twice a year. If there's a little weight room, if there's a clubhouse, if there's features and amenities, I always fail to give enough value to landscaping. People love nice land. So if you have big mature trees or eucalyptus trees, you might say, you know what? I love eucalyptus trees. Actually, I saw a place, it was not a spectacular townhome otherwise, but they had olive trees all over. I'm like, I've never seen an olive tree in my life. And all over this place is olives growing on trees.
Were
like
they salty?
I didn't try them because I don't know if there's a process or if there's poisonous olives or what, but if you want to live in a community full of olive trees, is that worth your HOA payment? So these are things that can. So I think the way to look at it is whatever that HOA monthly fee is, you look around and go, am I getting something for that money that is of value to me? I think that's the best way to look at it, because you're right, that number can vary. And what is weird to me is sometimes you'll see a very low $30 or $40 HOA monthly, but they ain't doing anything. And it's like, okay, well, Cool. What are they? I guess they're just driving around once a month and tell people not to let their house look too trashy on the outside. And that's fine, right? Is that worth $30 a month? Sure. If it's $200 a month, then I go, okay, what am I getting for the $200? Like, show me the amenity that the HOA is providing for that cost. So I think that's the best way, because in the end, people like the house and the location.
Is there any correlation to a super nice house and the amount of money that will come back and how much the HOA is at all?
No.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if I understand your question correctly.
Like a nice neighborhood that has an expensive HOA.
Yeah.
Will that price of houses usually go up more through time, or will just a house that has a cheap HOA? Is there any correlation? That house with the cheaper HOA, will the value of that market, that neighborhood, will not go up as fast as the.
If I understand your question correctly, the the larger the HOA monthly will not necessarily impact the value appreciation of a particular community. So having a higher priced HOA is not necessarily a value increase in the future. Because you can have very ineffective HOAs with high fees, and all they're doing is paying a landscaper to come. Because I've seen so many, you see every case. You can have an HOA that had a real unfortunate lawsuit against it, and they lost the lawsuit for, say, $2 million. But now they got to spread the cost of the $2 million across all the homeowners. So then they got to jack up that monthly fee to pay for this lawsuit that you had nothing to do with, that happened before you ever moved there. So that's a terrible thing to buy into. But it happens if it's the best place that fits you and it's worth that cost and it's better than your other options. And yeah, it sucks. I got a high HOA, but it was worth it because I wanted a place with this kind of garage. So it, in the end, the market's overall going to appreciate. I don't think the cost of your HOA impacts that too much.
I was thinking like Rhodes Ranch. I'm guessing Rhodes Ranch probably has a decent HOA price.
You mean hefty?
Does that hefty priced community, does that mean the houses in there usually appreciate because of all the amenities? Any house outside, does that neighborhood not appreciate as fast as Rhodes Ranch? That's kind of my train of thought. I'm guessing from your answer, probably.
I think it's already priced in. Like, there's certain people that are attracted to Rhodes Ranch and they'll pay more to live in there, right? So there's a certain value to be in Rhodes Ranch. What you're getting with that HOA is that live guard at the gate. You get a staff of live guards to hassle strangers at the gate to keep whoever out, right? What's interesting is inside Rhodes Ranch, you could be inside another community within that has its own gate. So there's gated communities inside Rhodes Ranch. So now you're paying two. You're paying that separate community and the overall Rhodes Ranch. So there's several places where that happens. Mountain's Edge, Southern Highlands, not at Cadence, Sky Canyon. So there's a bunch of places. Inspirada is a big one, that you got this master community and then the smaller community. You're paying two separate HOAs. Again, what are you getting for it, right? But the question, do those
values go up?
Yeah. Mathematically, I don't think so. This is my opinion. It's not meant to be
financial advice.
It's just my opinion out of my ass. There are whatever price premium there is for that value is already currently in the house. In the future, the market seems to grow at some percentage across the board, generally speaking. Honestly, the more important thing is the condition of your home. If you have a nice mansion inside Rhodes Ranch and you trash the inside of it, that's going to affect your value a lot more than anything else. If you have, a basic home in a less desirable neighborhood, and you've got it beautiful inside, you remodeled the kitchen, and it's super awesome inside, somebody's going to want that. And it may surprise you in any neighborhood because they're like, oh yeah, my family lives over here. I want to stay near my family because they're going to help me babysit my kids. And this is a beautiful house. Like, I grew up in this neighborhood. I ain't trying to move somewhere else. So it's different for everybody. You could personally not see why anybody would want to live here, but they're like, oh, that's a beautiful place. I like that, right? So everybody's different. And so in a weird way, the whole market kind of floats up and down together, mostly up.
Is there home improvement, just switching topics, home improvement items that you would suggest against or for that bring back value to the house or not?
That's a great question. So people mistakenly think often that a pool is a great value. There's two things that a pool does. Nowadays, it probably costs you about 40, 50 grand to put a pool into your backyard. Rough numbers, right? So costs you about 40, 50 grand. When you go to sell your house, it's not automatically now worth 40 grand more. It's worth maybe 10 or 15 more. It adds some value, but not the cost of the pool. So don't get a pool as an investment. Get a pool if you're going to enjoy it for 20 grand worth of consumption, right? If you got young kids and you're staying in this house and you teach them how to swim and you're going to enjoy summers there and have the neighbors' kids over and do all the awesome things you can do in the pool, do it and spend the 40 grand, right? Better that than the entry-level BMW, right? I love BMWs, but you want to get the 5 Series. You don't want to start at the entry level. So the pool will not necessarily return value on cost. The other thing a pool does is it segregates your buyers. There are certain people that definitely want a pool, and there's certain people that definitely don't want the maintenance of a pool. So I think when I bought, I was like, yeah, I was super cost conscious, coming from I could go for one now, but back then I was like, am I going to swim in it enough? Do I have to hire a pool guy? I know I'm not going to be out there every week. It turns out it's even more, if you want to do the pool yourself, it's more work than even I thought. I got a buddy, he's always measuring the pH and balancing the chemicals, and seasonally he has to shock it with some kind of chemicals. You got to dump chemicals to shock it. You got to drain it every year or two and start over and flush, and this whole ongoing maintenance and chemistry, even outside of sweeping leaves out of it and maintaining the pump that keeps the water moving, and the if you got a temperature control, how are you going to keep it heated? If the filters get clogged. There's a whole lot going on with a pool. If you love it and you got a lot of energy, go for it. If you love it and you can afford $150 a month for a guy to come take care of it once a week, do it. So those are all loose numbers again. But so yeah, a pool is not a great investment in value. It's a great investment in fun. What's the other value things? Was that the original question?
Yeah, so part of kitchen remodel is probably number one.
Kitchen's a big one. Kitchen will sell a house. So if you have an awesome kitchen, I remember one, I think it was Fay Avenue, had a really neat kitchen. It was unusual, but it was still beautiful and modern and attractive. Most beautiful, modern, attractive kitchens are common in that you can find that same style in other kitchens. This one was unique and super attractive, and that home got so much attention because you look at the pictures first and you see that cool kitchen and you go, man, I at least want to go look at that place, right? Let's go see how awesome this kitchen is. And it wasn't like high end, it was just beautifully done. And it's funny because the rest of the house was kind of older and had a particular style to it that you may or may not be into, but the kitchen was the attractor. So kitchens are a big one. Then flooring is the next big one. So there's not a lot of people that love carpets. It's more popular now for people to love hard floors. Typically either tile or luxury vinyl plank is typically what we're seeing. You can have a wood look tile that's pretty cool. That it's ceramic tiles that we're used to, but in different shapes and sizes and with a wood look on it. So you can paint or print. Those can be really cool looking tiles. So if you're gonna do your floors, it's more pick a more popular flooring and you'll sell better. If you do white carpet, you're going to eliminate a lot of practical people. If you do a gross looking brown shag carpet, you're going to eliminate most people. Because most people, even if it's a brand new puke brown shag carpet, most people don't want that for their flooring. So yeah, kitchen, flooring probably next. Paint your walls a nice neutral color, because what's happening is people are walking into a home and they're imagining their life, right? If you give them a blank canvas to imagine onto, that works great. If you got an orange accent wall, I literally just saw this a couple of days ago. I took this family out for a showing, and they had a wallpaper of like a Jaws great white shark, and it was cool wallpaper if you're like 12 and you love sharks and you don't have shark nightmares. But it was this stunning graphic wallpaper of a great white shark doing the Jaws thing, and that's going to eliminate some other buyers. It's a weird thing because you could easily paint over it or tear the wallpaper down or whatever you want to do. But it's funny because it'll lose you buyers, honestly. So it's a funny, and so these buyers, they were able to see past that and they loved the home anyway. They're like, yeah, they thought it was kind of funny, and they were teasing the daughter like, it's gonna be your room, right? So that's a healthy way to look at it. Most people can't see past some bad design choices. And a lot of that has to do with, are you a handyman? If you've already fixed up the place you're in and you can do a lot of the work and go watch a YouTube video on how to fix some stucco cracks and figure out everything and put the effort into it. Even if you move into a place and you do one project every Saturday, you can undo some damage. You can do a lot every Saturday for a couple hours, right? So if you have that kind of mindset and that kind of effort, then it can be great. If you're kind of the person that's tired from work and you're taking care of the kids and you got no energy left to be doing home improvement, then most people are looking for a move-in ready home that kind of fits. So knowing that, you can use that to your advantage. So that's one of the things I actually want to talk about is basically preparing your home to sell, right? So you're talking about what's going to add the most value to your home: kitchen, floors, paint, nice neutral walls, right? Aside from that, overall maintenance. If you got old ass blinds that are falling down, it's going to look bad, right? It's like a black eye. So overall condition, and go around and fix the little things. Like if you got that doorknob to the downstairs bathroom that only works if you turn it left, and if you turn it right, people feel like they're trapped in the bathroom. Just, go spend $30 on a doorknob at Home Depot and upgrade the doorknob while you're at it and get a nice one on there for $30. Do some screws, right? Take you 10 minutes, maybe half an hour if you're really
10 minutes.
Right. So for that little investment, you can sway the opinion of somebody who's looking at the house. And if that gets one more person just over the hump to liking the house, and shoot, now you got two buyers interested at the same time instead of one. If you got one buyer interested, then you're negotiating with that person and going, hey, you want to buy the place? Oh, you're offering me less. Can you come up a little bit? Maybe we can negotiate. There becomes this thing. But if you replace that doorknob, this is an extreme example, but if you replace that bathroom doorknob and that changed that person's opinion just into the yes, I'm interested, especially if you do 10 little repairs, right? If you do 10 little repairs that made that person feel like the home was well maintained instead of crappy. Now, if you got two buyers interested, you as the seller are like, hey, yeah, I'd love to sell you this place, but I got another buyer who's also, they're writing up an offer right now, so you might want to, and you're being honest. You're not doing anything dishonest. You've just maximized your position by making your home as attractive as possible and getting the most people interested. So that's a much better position to be than struggling for a buyer. So a lot of things you can do to make your home most attractive is this general idea of kind of the most popular stuff. You don't want to pick wild shark wallpaper. You don't want to pick weird countertops. You know, it's awesome if you got the style to have turquoise cabinets. But most people don't want turquoise cabinets. So you go with one of the, you know, some kind of wood color. You know, white's very popular, right? Gray is kind of popular. Black is less popular. So as you go down, you know, if you just pick the most common, most popular things, you're going to get the most potential buyers. If you can keep your house well maintained and remove any little doubts. I've seen something like outlet covers and light switches are pretty, like I've seen houses that were great, except they got shitty looking light switches. And I'm like, oh man, this kind of cast doubt on the whole enterprise, because now I wonder if this place was well maintained or they just throw on a fresh coat of paint right now. But if they had gone through the trouble to replace all the light switches, I mean, how much would that cost? You could probably get an electrician to do it. $500?
Well, even the light switches? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can go on YouTube and figure out.
Yeah.
Home Depot and YouTube will.
Yeah.
You can do all your light switches without electrocuting yourself. Probably pretty.
Yeah. But even, I see electrician $500, and if you're selling your house, you should be making a lot more money than $500.
Well, I think the difference in perception could get you $5,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so is it worth that time and effort? Yeah. So fix all the little things you can. Walk into it with fresh eyes and go, you know, what's wrong? What's going to turn somebody off about this place? If you can get all of that. When you're showing your house, when people are coming to look at your house, it's hard for people to buy a house if they can't walk into it. No matter how amazing the pictures are, you still want to go see it. Most people, right? It's wise because you're buying a big thing, and pictures can only show you so much, right? I hire a professional photographer to make amazing pictures to get you to want this house, but I still want you to come see it. So if I have shitty pictures, you may not want to even come see it, right? So I'm not trying to get you to buy it based on the pictures. I'm trying to get the pictures to get you to come look at this beautiful house, right? Does it fit what you're looking for at first? So I guess that's another one, is drop the $100 for a professional photographer. I always do. I know I've said this on your show before, for sure. But that's totally worth it. That's the first step to get them in. Once they come in, what is going to turn somebody off about this house, right? Is there some gunk next to your washing machine? Well, you know, do whatever it takes to get the gunk out of there and, you know, make it pretty, right? So even curb appeal in the front, right? You pluck the weeds, and, you know, right now my backyard is not ready for sale.
But you're not looking to sell.
Yes, exactly. But if I was going to put my home on the market, I'm going to spend a couple hours sprucing up the backyard to as perfect as I can get it. Yeah, it's going to take some sweat. But does pulling the weeds out of the backyard and throwing away some shit, like that old shovel. I got an old shovel back there that came with the place. If somebody sees that old shovel, that's not going to help my. It's like it's a weird miniature shovel. Anyway, that's not going to help sell the place at all. But clearing it out gives you this clean, vacant. So similarly with the inside of the house, even if you still have to live there while you're showing it, try to clear everything out. Like, just get rid of all your trash, throw away everything you're not using. And then, yeah, you still have to keep your bed there, but make the bed, right? Make it look like a model, hide all your junk, throw all your stuff into the garage, because you're going to move, right? Box it up, put it in the garage, ready to go. If people see all your stuff in boxes in the garage, that's fine. They get it. Like, yeah, this person's going to move out when I move in, so all their stuff's in the boxes, right? Even if you have to use a spare bedroom and put all your stuff in a spare bedroom, even that's good. Because they go, okay, I get it. There's a closet over there, and there's a nice window. It probably, you know, faces the neighbor. But they got all the stuff in here because they're moving out, right? That's so much better than having all your stuff out in the kitchen and all your junk in the closet, your whole shoe collection showing. Because the more of your stuff that's in the house, the harder it is for that buyer to imagine their life there. Because what they see is, oh, this is Liem's place. He's got a lot of computer stuff. You know, it's so hard to imagine, oh, I'm going to put my furniture here. I'm going to put my stuff where this is. So the blanker, you can make that canvas. And then counterintuitively, some plants. I don't know if this is what you're doing here, but people, there's a human brain thing. Similarly to how I fail to recognize the value of landscaping often enough or magnitude enough. A few plants around the house can really make a place warmer and more. There's something about plants that makes people kind of like having a few plants in the front yard, right? It's landscaping, right? My place has just the token, a couple bushes, and I'm no botanist. I don't know anything about that, but I couldn't even tell you what kind of plants they are. But people like seeing plants in the front yard, and if you can throw a couple of nice strategic plants around the house, a vacant house, it'll grab people's attention and make them like it. And yeah. I don't know if I strayed too far from your question.
No, it's all good. Start into the final questions, and you're the first.
Final countdown.
You're the first guest to do this twice, so you've already answered some of those questions, but you're also the first guest, so I have some additional questions that were added. So the questions that you already answered, if you want to, you could just say it's the same answer, or you could change your answer to something else. What daily habits do you have that greatly improve your life?
I try not to waste any day. So yeah, that was my one productive thing done. Daily habits. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything new on that front.
I think you mentioned having a calendar to-do list, two things per day or something.
It was only one, but yeah, I mean,
I'm giving you too much credit.
Yeah, 2 is double as good. I'm really starting to think about some weight loss because I'm starting to feel fat. So I've seen a couple pictures of myself that have made me a little self-conscious about the spare tire I'm carrying around. So I think I need to make some changes that really focus more on my fitness level. So I do generally do stuff like I went for a hike a couple days ago, and so I'm not averse to fitness activity, but I think it's not enough, and I make too many exceptions in my diet. So I'll have buffalo wings once in a while. I'll also have a roast beef sandwich once in a while, and I try to do those all the time. It might be, twice a month I'll have some pizza. But what I'm finding is that I have so many exceptions that I can cycle through them all. I don't have donuts more than every 2 or 3 months. But if you add up the variety of things I am allowing myself to eat, it's not salad. It's just a rotation of unhealthy foods. So I need to change. I'm getting to a point where I need to make some drastic changes. There's the talk of that bulletproof style of, I don't know if it's keto, but it's coffee where you put coconut oil and butter in it, and you use some medium chain triglyceride fats that trick your body into thinking you're full on coffee. And I think it only works if you skip breakfast. Again, I don't know anything about this. You got to go to your nutritionist.
That'd be easy for me. I already skip breakfast.
Well, then you don't need to trick yourself. I think it would work for me if I was driving to a job, because I could skip breakfast, drink this coffee, and feel full enough to hold out till lunch, because it's structured that way.
But is it skipping the breakfast and say I already do skip breakfast, but if I'm not drinking that, does it not trick the body? Do I have to drink?
I think it's if you drink that particular coffee, it makes you feel full and helps you to skip breakfast, which overall is. I could be entirely wrong. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I need to figure out some way to reduce my calories and increase my fitness. I'm going to start riding my bicycle.
All Americans do.
Yeah, and it's hard as a realtor because I don't clock into an office. I don't commute somewhere. I wake up and deal with whatever issue. I respond to urgent emails and texts and put out the fires, right? So, I got one closing escrow on Tuesday. So now I go, what do I need to make sure is all set up for Tuesday? I got to talk to the title and escrow people to make sure they've scheduled the buyer to come in and sign. So my typical day is I'm waking up and jumping on the computer at my house to do those things. So I'm missing that outside structure, because then it's so easy, because I love to have coffee and a breakfast sandwich to start my day. So I'm not missing any meals. I'm not skipping any meals. So I'm either running around showing houses and doing stuff, or I'm relaxing. I got a break now, and I go right to the kitchen that's so close to my desk. So there's a peril of that working at home. It's great when I'm out showing homes, but then I have this other bad habit of hitting a drive-through when I'm out showing homes, because I'm kind of rewarding myself. So I need to change those habits, and I don't know, maybe just really get strict with my diet and really really commit more to fitness. So I think it's really that simple. More exercise, less calories in, or healthier calories. So sorry, your question spurred my own
that's good.
Self-hatred.
That's what this podcast is about.
Introspection.
What do you think? What are your thoughts of cryptocurrency?
I think they're good. Yeah, they're good.
Whether current news, old thoughts.
Yeah, a recent thought, because I bought a little bit a long time ago, and it has grown in value. I don't have enough to retire, but it's a weird thing where if I put in a couple $100 now, it's not going to change the overall amount that I have very much. And I see it as a long shot bet. So there's some chunk of value in that cryptocurrency, and hopefully someday it'll be worth a lot. So I'm just holding, right? So for me, it doesn't make any sense to go buy some more right now very much. But for other people who don't have any, then I think you should go buy some, even a couple $100, because it seems to be one of those appreciating assets that normal people can buy. What are the appreciating assets that normal people can buy? Real estate. Your home is the best one, because you got to pay rent anyway. So if you got to pay rent, you might as well own the place and get the equity. Stocks seem to be a good bet over long term, right? Aside from real estate, stocks, appreciating assets, cryptocurrency appears to fit that bill. That you can download an app and buy some cryptocurrency and hold it, and you own this thing that's increasing in value, it seems, over time. It's very volatile, but it appears to be increasing in value over time. Aside from that, I don't know what other normal assets regular people can buy. I mean, you can get into maybe luxury watches or sports collectibles, but you almost then have to become an expert in that field. I mean, I think maybe some kind of sneakers. So there's obscure fields of things that you become an expert in and can do, but I don't know those things. So I don't know of any other appreciating assets. So if you already got a property you own, and you already got a 401k at work, and you already bought some other stocks, then to me, buy a chunk of cryptocurrency as an additional bet on something that is more volatile than those traditional things, but also seems to have a bigger potential upside. So would you buy something right now for $300 that could be worth 10 grand in 5 years? Sure. Sounds like a good deal to me. So while I personally am not currently continuously buying it, part of that is I need to buy more stock because I don't have any stock. So I need to get into the stock market. And so I think
you have some stock.
That's true. That was a gamble. For your viewing audience, there's this craze right now about GameStop and AMC. There's a whole world of Wall Street bets, Reddit. So I know a lot of young guys that are excited about it. So I kind of bought in just for fun and as a gamble, as a long shot. So I bought like $2,000 worth of GameStop and AMC shares just on the chance of it going big like they all think it will. If it doesn't go big, whatever, it was fun to be a part of it. So I own a little bit of stock. I have an old 401k from back when I had jobs, but as a realtor, I haven't set up my own retirement 401k type thing because I don't know, you got to do a Roth IRA or something. I don't know. I just haven't done it.
So I think, sorry, I threw you off. I think you were talking about appreciating asset, house, stocks, cryptocurrency. I think that's what you're.
Yeah. So aside from that, I don't know what other thing people can buy. I don't know what other appreciating assets normal people can buy.
Yeah, I agree with you. What's your thoughts on the future of cryptocurrency? Is it real or is it going to die out?
It looks pretty real. The biggest one is the IRS taxes it. If the IRS wants to tax you on your crypto earnings, that sounds real to me. I mean, you're going to tell me it's not real? IRS wants money. So that the IRS is coming after you. That tells me it's a real deal. But there's a lot of other... there's news articles about adoption, like Visa's doing some stuff with cryptocurrency. PayPal is an interesting one to me because PayPal was one of our first. I'm old enough to know the time before the internet. PayPal was one of our first internet payment things, right? It's a big deal, right? Because we all know the name PayPal. I don't even use it, but I know it's a big deal. PayPal, that's how you buy stuff online. There's a million ways to buy stuff online. Now you can put your credit card number into Domino's Pizza. You don't need PayPal, but you can pay for stuff online, and PayPal is one of those ways. PayPal will accept cryptocurrency. Talking about Teslas, Tesla will accept your cryptocurrency and give you this beautiful car, right? So you can buy an awesome Tesla with Bitcoin. That sounds real to me, right? So these to me are the reality and the adoption of cryptocurrency. Those old myths about cryptocurrency is only used for dark web and criminal activities. I'm sure there was something that happened, but same with cash. I mean, show me, how many crimes have been committed with cash. So, to me, every day, every new example of some implementation appears to me a reality change. So anybody at this point who has all this information and doubts the reality of cryptocurrency being used in the world, that doesn't seem logical to me. Maybe we're stuck in an older time. I feel the same way about people who still have a fax number. I don't know what you're doing with a fax machine, but we can just email attachments now. It's easier. I don't know why you need a separate machine that makes a beeping noise to send a piece of paper that way.
You think
I'm imagining people are dying on the other side of their keyboard. They're just laughing their asses off right now. Sorry.
I hear that faxes, it's because the connection...
You're going to defend fax machines?
So, yeah,
all right, let's do it.
Supposedly the security of the fax machine, because it's a direct... See, I don't understand. It's a direct signal. But someone would have to tap onto that exact line.
Okay.
Whereas the internet broadcasts everything out, so it's easier to hack that.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
It's a different route. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I assumed all phone lines were kind of computerized anyway.
Well, now a lot are nowadays, but the faxes specifically have not. Oh, well.
Okay, so if we run a wire from my office to your fax machine, then it would be unhackable.
Yeah.
Suckers. Come get me, Russia.
Yeah, I mean, if security is an issue, there's like encrypted email systems that you could. If I've run into some people that are using the encrypted email system. I'm using Proton Mail. If you used Proton Mail, someone else has Proton Mail. Everything is fully encrypted back and forth.
Interesting.
Yeah, so most of your
is it only if both sides are?
If both sides are using, yeah.
Okay.
If like say you're using Gmail and I email you from my Proton address, then it's decrypted and therefore insecure.
Yeah.
But we haven't got to the point where people are really understand encryption and whatnot. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll eventually get there.
Okay.
I was going to ask about, just random thought. It's kind of interesting with cryptocurrency. I mean, just like every technology, whether it be Google 20 years ago, Uber nowadays, Uber Eats. It's interesting to think about cryptocurrency 5 years ago. Like me and you, we were just barely dabbling our toes into the water of cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
To go from back then, remembering back where we were not sure if it was going to be a real thing or not. It was a gamble. Just throw some money in and just hope it goes somewhere.
Yeah. I remember we were excited about the potential. And I remember my main thesis at that point was that the world is changing faster every day. In my lifetime, I'm seeing the world continue to change faster every day. When I finished high school in 1995, email was a brand new thing. And I barely kept in touch with a couple people from high school through email. But you had to go to the university computer lab and log on to my, .edu email, or I think it was called Rohan down at San Diego State, the Rohan email server. So it was very primitive compared to what we enjoy today, but that was brand new as I was coming out of high school, and you had to learn a new thing. And even the death of the fax machine, right? So you see these changes happening. More and more change happens in a lifetime now than ever. So to me, it seems like a logical technical progression. I can't predict where or how far it'll go or what direction. I just know things are changing all the time. So the idea of digital money doesn't sound crazy to me. I mean, what's the money on my debit card? I don't get it. I mean, there's a chip and a magnetic stripe and pushing a PIN number, and I trust that this all works because I got it all figured out. And still there's some fraud, so I got to be careful. But
A lot of fraud.
Yeah, so I just try to do the best I can. I don't need to understand every piece of it. People younger than me need to use Venmo and Zelle Pay and Cash App, and they're sending money through your cell phone that's connected to your bank account. I opened a Vanguard account to try to dabble into stocks and start buying stocks, and that's all on a computer. That it's how do you trust all this stuff? I just got to trust that it works. If other people are doing it, and there's enough people doing it, then I have to not worry too much about how crazy it is. So the idea of digital money is here in a million ways. My dad plays video games on his iPhone and spends money on it. And then somehow he gets billed for the games he's playing. Or you're watching your TV and you want to rent a movie, so you click yes to $3.99, going to somebody else. So digital money is it's already here. So to me, what's cryptocurrency? I think at that time we're like, people are Venmoing. What's the difference? It's some other digital money. So why wouldn't it happen, right? And we see now that it has happened. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Liem bought a belt a couple years ago and he paid for it with cryptocurrency. And it's funny because the amount of crypto he spent on the belt, what would you determine that this?
It was $23 back then, and nowadays it's $130, something like that.
Yeah, so he bought a $23 belt with cryptocurrency. If he had kept the money instead, if he had kept the cryptocurrency instead of buying that belt, that asset would have appreciated. So what would we say, $160?
$130, $140.
$140 belt. The funny part is he doesn't even like the belt. He's worn it twice. So it's an awesome belt. It's a beautiful $160. It's a styling belt. You would dig it. I think you should put it up on eBay.
I want to frame it.
But at that time, I think you were like, hey, this is a test. Can you physically buy it? Because that's what money is, right? You're buying something and somebody sent you a belt. And I think at the time it was overstock.com. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you spent it and look, I got a belt. So how's that different than money? To me, that's, as long as enough people agree that it's money, ask anybody younger than us they spend money on their cell phones through their cell phones. They're living a whole different digital life. There's young people that don't want to carry any cash, right? So, I mean, I like having cash in my pocket. Do I need it? Probably not. Can you use your debit card for just about everything? Probably. Right.
I wonder if an interesting question or thought out of what you're saying. Say 7 years ago, if someone just said, "Hey, I'll give you $100 of Bitcoin," probably 90% of the people would say yes or no. I'm sorry, no. If you said, "I'll give you $100 of Bitcoin,"
Absolutely.
I think 90% of people would say yes. Maybe more. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Well, yeah. I mean, in exchange for something.
Yeah.
To buy something.
Yeah. I think what that's my train of thought is just the amount of adoption, whether it be even just mental. I think getting people over that hurdle of understanding that cryptocurrency is something it's real because the foundation has caused it to be real, meaning all the mining servers, and it's decentralized. It's a good platform that can't be easily hacked, at least not the algorithm.
No, but they don't understand any of that.
But I agree with you. But as people are seeing enough of that, their idea of adopting the idea of using it, accepting it.
Yeah. I saw some news articles about big Wall Street banks are every day opening new funds and allowing people to buy cryptocurrency through their hedge funds or however that works. I don't know anything about hedge funds or Wall Street, but if you think there's a lot of money there and those people are there to collect money, then they're getting in the crypto game. So if you think they're doing something stupid, then don't buy any cryptocurrency, whatever you do. If you think they're terribly wrong fools that aren't trying to make a profit, then don't do what they're doing. That's how I would say it. If you like getting in on the game, then jump in on the game, I guess. Whatever you can afford, that's your choice, right? I mean, it's not as much of a gamble now as when we bought some. We spent a couple $1,000 and we're like, hey, let's roll these dice and see what would happen. And it's been a fun roll.
Fun roller coaster.
Yeah. So for people now, I think it's very similar. I see a lot of people that are like, oh, I missed it. I'm like, no. I think it's like the housing market. I think it's an appreciating asset. I think it's like the stock market in that I couldn't have bought stock before I was born. I couldn't have bought a house before I ever had a job. So you buy it whenever you can. The moment you become aware of it and value it, buy it then. Because if it continues growing into the future, then you're just at a different starting point, but your growth should be similar in whatever way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Since you can't buy before you can, then buy whenever you can, because it's not that you missed it, right? Otherwise I'm valuing it at a past value, right? I'm gonna say, this house was built and it sold for $150,000. Why would I pay $400,000 for it now? Because that's its value now. It's a location and it's a house. It doesn't matter what the builder originally sold it to somebody else 23 years ago, right? So wherever you are at in appreciating assets, so not just cryptocurrency, any of these. So I could be mad at myself for not buying stock sooner. I could have bought stock younger in my life, but I'm getting to a point where, you know what, I just need to do it and buy into the stock market. It seems to be working.
Yeah. Next question. What's the biggest problem nationally or globally? What should humans do to fix it? I don't remember what your answer was back then, but
I don't know. I think I declared war on defense contractors and decided I was going to get assassinated in a roundabout way. The biggest problem nationally and globally.
or globally.
A lot of people say the environment. They say global warming. I would prefer to call it climate destabilization. A lot of people say that. I agree. It's a massive problem. If you don't believe it, if you think it's whatever you want to call bullshit on it, go to Miami and ask Miami if the ocean is rising. Go to California beach towns and see if they're really worried about houses that are on stilts right now, right? Because the cities collect property taxes on these $1 million homes, multi-million-dollar homes on the beach, and they're starting to go, shit, if these houses go underwater, we don't get property taxes on them anymore. So it's really incontrovertible. It's irrefutable. It is undeniable that there's a destabilization of our climate happening within a human lifetime, right? I've had people come out of like Midwest states and they'll say, oh man, it's crazy weather. I've never seen anything like this. I've been there, 60 years, and I grew up there, and I was on a farm, and I know the weather, and it's been the wildest, these last couple of years. I've never seen anything like it. And I go, whoa, wow, it's almost like something's destabilizing the climate, huh? And they go, oh, they want to punch me because they're so bought into this politics and this lie. And where that stems from, I believe, is an unabashed Republican Party that is barely worse than the Democrat Party of crooked politicians that take money from lobbyists and rich people, right? So if you got $1 billion, you can buy yourself a congressman, get whatever laws you want written. And so these institutions of profit first in America it's just that the costs get paid elsewhere. And in this case, we are all paying for it in our destabilized climate. So the climate change is not the problem. The corruption at the top is the problem, right? Because if we had some real democratic government that we were smart enough to vote for people that cared about the things that we cared about, we would vote for honest, lawmakers that would do things to combat climate change. We could do that. We all have the vote. We're too stupid. We vote for these clowns that go up there and get us pissed off about abortion or gun rights or a million other things that they know. We'll vote for a clown that tells us Mexican criminals are our biggest problem coming across the border, right? Have you been attacked by a Mexican criminal? Can you show me what? I mean, do you live down by the border? Like, are you living in Iowa? Okay, what's your Mexican crime problem in Iowa? No? Like, okay, great job, swing state. Like, you had this outsized influence. Why is Iowa and New Hampshire critical to our primary election process? What the fuck's going on in Iowa and New Hampshire that's so important that they get to sway our whole crazy electoral college? We, as American voters, are not smart enough to vote intelligently enough to reform and fix all of that. Maybe it's partially because people who seek political office seek power and seek profit. Maybe that's the core problem, that a good person doesn't seek power and political office. So there's some super dysfunction where the corruption in America is not down where we can affect it. It's at the top where we have no influence, we have no power, we have no money. This got depressing real fast, right? Oh, you asked me about a problem, I guess. It's a world problem because America is the biggest economy, the biggest impact on the rest of the world. When we do something stupid, other nations feel it. There's also something fantastic about America. Everybody's trying to get here. Everybody wants to get here and get rich, or at least live a better life. So what other country in the world is everybody trying to get into? There's other places. They're not. So I think I am repeating myself from a previous podcast, but I still feel that way. That America is great and terrible all at once. So what's the problem? Money at the top, corruption. The money is power in the U.S. I was just talking to somebody earlier about our justice system. Like, more money is more justice too. Like, yeah, because you can hire more lawyers, right? So what is our justice system? It is inherently flawed if money buys you justice, right? And we see that with, you would probably ask our prison, you know, is it rich dudes going to jail or poor dudes, right?
Oh, do you remember I asked him about Jeff Epstein if Epstein would have been in that prison? He's like, no, that guy's rich. He wouldn't be in this prison. It's a common person.
Oh,
prison.
yeah.
Epstein would have gone to the rich person prison.
Yeah, so I would love to ask him more about that. Like, what's rich people jail? Like, what's that? How do you buy your way in, or how do you? What's that like? Is it like a country club, or we've heard of this concept, and it's weird because we know, hey, that's bullshit. Rich people get to go to a nicer prison, and then we move on. How come it doesn't get fixed? Anybody in their right mind would go, hey, that's bullshit. That's not justice. That's unfair. But then it just keeps going. So that's the problem. Our democracy is disconnected from our lawmaking and leadership, and
our morals. It's disconnected from our morals.
Yeah.
If we have morals.
Yeah, people tend to be more scumbags when nobody's watching. Nobody litters when you're watching. They litter when nobody's watching. Or graffiti, right?
They litter. Oh, I see what you're saying.
They don't litter if somebody's watching them, right?
Yeah.
It's this chicken shit thing.
Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of graffiti in bathrooms. It's like, hey, you chicken shit. you did graffiti when you couldn't get, like if you were really awesome about your graffiti, go do it in broad daylight and go face down the owner of that building.
All right. Next question.
So it's a wrong turn. I know you waited 2 hours for that gem.
Think of at least two friends that should do this conversation. Call them out.
Shit, I should have been ready for that one. Because I've seen your podcast. I know a lot of other realtors. I think I've recommended a bunch of people to you.
Yeah, this was kind of unfair. Because I think I think one, Crystal, she's probably going to do conversations.
Crystal's great. She's a vibrant, energetic, a great person, yeah. She's really cool. Ethan should have said yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Cool. We'll let you slide on this one. All right. Last question.
I got a friend named Dan who's a nurse. I want to see Dan. I want to watch Dan talk for 3 hours.
All right. Awesome.
He's a sexy man.
All right, Dan, I'm going to be contacting you. Tell me in a few sentences or less about what this conversation was like. If you've done a podcast or interview before, describe the biggest difference. I may use this answer in a collage video for new potential guests.
This was way better than the previous podcasts I've done with you. Just kidding. It's a great new studio. It is tough because I've talked with you before, so it's hard to be fresh. But I really enjoy your podcast because it is genuine in that there's no ulterior motive. You don't have some other angle. You really just want to converse with people and discover some things and hear the stories and step on some emotional bombs. I'm sorry, I don't have any gripping, heart-wrenching, sad tales. I tend to gravitate towards happy things and be positive and help with those sort of things. So maybe that's a fault of my own. Maybe I should be gravitating towards sad things and trying to help there. Am I just avoiding pain? Is that what I'm doing?
No, I would say for me, I'm just gravitating towards emotional things on podcasts. So whether it be happiness or sadness, I consider that story of helping that kid who got that inmate that got wrongly accused. I think that's a happy story.
That's a huge life thing. Yeah. I regret having spent 4 years playing the clarinet. That's a useless instrument as an adult. You can't. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard it, but don't let your kids play the clarinet. You can't serenade anybody with a clarinet. You can't bust it out at the campfire. In fact, name your favorite band with a clarinet in it,
Imagine like the comments on the YouTube is gonna have clarinet
Dude, fuck
lovers.
clarinets.
They're gonna hate you.
Unless you're in a symphony orchestra, what do you... So people will try to defend the clarinet. They're like, "Oh, I played the clarinet. I love it. It's great." I'm like, "Oh, really? You still got one?" Like, "Yeah." "Where is it?" "It's in that little case." And you disassemble, put it in a case, and it's in their closet. Like, "Okay, when was the last time you played your clarinet because you enjoy it so much?" Like, high school. So, I mean, even in a jazz band, you're not the cool guy. You're the clarinet guy. So don't waste your time playing the clarinet. Piano, drums, guitar, or start with this. Pick your favorite band. Pick an instrument that's in that band, right? If you like listening to it. So, I mean, if you love symphonies, if you're listening to, the old classical Mozart and Beethoven stuff all the time, and the sound of the clarinet ringing through the symphony brings you a special joy, go for it. But if you don't love musical plays and a whole band and don't have some special thing for the clarinet, then play the piano.
I think we should end on the clarinet.
Yeah, clarinets forever.
Thank you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really enjoy your show and your podcast. So
Thank you.
subscribe now.